This episode of Wrestle Update is dedicated to the memory of Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. Our thoughts and prayers are with their fans, friends, and families. What's up, people? Welcome to a very special edition of Wrestle Update. I'm your host, Dylan Fox, and it is the day that we will talk about the biggest show in pro wrestling history, at least in terms of noted attendance, notarized attendance. We are talking about, of course, AEW's All In show, live from Wembley Stadium, and a historic event throughout the history of wrestling, and for us both. First of all, I want to say shout out to everybody who listened to the show a few days ago. Very short return to the show here, but the GCW episode was very well received by those. It was an experience I never thought it would happen, but I'm very excited to get back into the world of the more mainstream companies, something I'm more comfortable with, obviously. Our friend Sandre, he was at the show live, and I will try to get him on in a day or two. He had a lot of problems getting home. There was a lot of travel issues. I think you guys know about this already going into the show, and if you're coming out of the show, rather, would be even more right to say. But we will try to do something with him, even if it's just a brief little segment talking about his live experience, how things were like getting on there, confirm, deny some things. Should be a fun show. That might be a YouTube exclusive. You got to follow that YouTube, Wrestle Update Pod on YouTube. Very good stuff there. But we are on a big roll right now, and I'm so proud and so happy to be joined by my good friend and the host who was by far the MVP of last week's episode. Hopefully we can recreate it again, maybe even do it a little bit better. Hopefully you guys think so. But as always, I'm joined by Nelo de Angelis. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, no, it was a blast to do GCW. They have like we were talking about, they have some really cool energy right now with like this GCW versus Freedoms feud. So it's kind of like the perfect time. We have a lot of like Japanese wrestlers over there. It's their big weekend. So yeah, it was a blast. Thanks again for doing it with me.
Oh, absolutely. We'll do it again when they do the War Games match too.
Sweet.
Into it. We'll keep track of something. If something has a high enough profile, we'll probably find some way to make time for it. If it happens in America, pretty much. Like even a big Ring of Honor show we might do in the future, unless there's like 5 shows going on the same weekend, like certain weekends that we're going to talk about. But lots of cool stuff going on right now in all of wrestling. I definitely enjoyed that little foray. But then we got to the big show. Happened just a couple of days ago, and God, so much has come out since then in this past 2 days since we recorded. But we're going to do our best to cover all of it. I have some notes and things like that. But first, we have to talk about what's truly important, which is the show itself. And I'm going to go ahead and ask you this, Nello. Considering everything, never mind the show itself, before it even happened, before we watched 1 second of this stream or the 0 hour, what were your feelings going into the show? What was your hype level? Was this a show you were really excited for, or were you like, man, I want to love this, but I'm not feeling it? What were your feelings going into it?
I was pretty excited. It felt like one of those shows where once it starts, like that's when the real excitement comes in. Like with traditional AEW pay-per-views, you know, it's way, for the lack of a better word, meatier. And this was definitely a bit of a lighter card in terms of high profile matches and things that people were really wanting. Obviously with it being back to back with All Out, it has its own issues, but I was really excited, honestly. I woke up pretty early and cooked breakfast for friends who came over for whatever reason at 9 a.m. to watch pro wrestling. So I was incredibly grateful. And I was excited. Yeah.
They came over because you were the draw, I think, Nello.
Thank you.
More than the wrestling itself. They wanted your cup. What did you make for breakfast, first of all? That's the first thing we need to talk about. What did you eat while you watched this show?
Oh my gosh. So I made like some ridiculous Dutch baby pancakes, which are like those cast iron pancakes you bake. So those, I made some eggs, some bacon, like a nice big organic smoothie. I was going to do a full English for everyone, like as a joke. And then I was like, oh, this looks horrible, actually. So,
hey, listen, no offense to our listeners in the UK right now, but I have to be on his side on this one as well, on the breakfast ingredients. But I think that for me, this show started. I'm a little bit ahead of Nello, so this is closer to lunchtime for me. And I'm not, I like breakfast food, don't get me wrong, but in general I will go, because my favorite kind of foods are spicy stuff. I want spicy food, so I did have, what did I have there? I think it was, I made what I had was some enchiladas I made myself, homemade. There. Just got some chicken, some cheese, the enchilada sauce. Put some, it's some good stuff there, some spicy stuff. So I was getting in the mood for this show. I wanted to get into a good place because like you said, I knew going into it, because I have Sandre when I talked to him, or we talked to him, whatever. I know he was like hating this show going into it. He was dreading it, even though he hated it so much that he flew from Norway to England to see this show and spent lots of money to do it. But he was so pissed that the card wasn't better and that the build up to it wasn't better. Like you said, more meatier, I think was a great way to describe it, actually. Which my enchiladas did have a lot of meat. I'm a meat guy for sure. I literally have, I have a plate that I've kept for 20 years of when the Disney Hercules was in the theater. I have a plate they gave out at McDonald's that says I'm a meat and potatoes guy with Hercules on it. I still have it. To this day, I will post that picture in the near future as well.
Please, this is like the new motorcycle.
Yeah, that's what we do on the show. Random aspects, because I always say wrestling is a microcosm of life, right? And we have to bring in the microcosms of our life to this show. So hopefully everyone enjoys that when I post it. But literally, I have it. I still have it to this day. I will get it out and take that picture. But regardless, I was not. I wasn't as down as him on it, but I was kind of like you, where it's like, okay, everything hasn't been built up perfectly by any stretch, but when the show happens, I mean, there's 80,000 people here. This is going to be insane, an electric feeling, and hopefully we can get something big. And there's a lot of talented wrestlers on this show. Although I will say I was completely. I'm not even going to wait for this match to happen because I was so pissed about it when it happened. The way they took Fox out of the coffin match was literally one of the worst things I think that I've seen in AEW. It was so stupid. Like, why would you break this up and take away his big match on top of it? I was like shocked when I watched it. It's like, okay, if there's some kind of visa issue, whatever. But don't take him out of the group. Like, don't.
Yeah.
I was so irritated because when we talked about this show, you gave a very passionate and good speech about how much Fox means to the scene of the U.S. And to take him out was like a slap in the face to his push and everything else. But that's one of many questionable decisions that were made, and we will get into that. But first of all, what did you think of the setup itself? The stage, obviously the fan amount was staggering, but what did you think about how they utilized it with the production values and things like that?
Once it began, I was very fascinated and kept an eye on that just because it hit me like they've never been able to, this is one of those things where you're doing your first try at this in front of, 80,000 live fans and, tons of other people at home. And I thought they did well. Like the setup felt very much like an OG WrestleMania. Like the stage wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah.
And then like the ring setup, like I was just at WrestleMania. God, what was the most recent one? 39? 30?
Yeah, 39. Yeah.
And like that setup was insane. like all of the screens, just like everything. I don't know. It had a very different feeling to it, but I actually thought I really enjoyed the pyro. I thought they did well in terms of like capturing those exterior stadium shots. Like the helicopter shots of the stadium. They had some, oh my God, really nice crane shots, but I will say it was a very welcome addition to not have CGI. What are they, birds shooting out when Matt Riddle kicks off his flip-flops?
Oh, yeah. All kinds. We had raccoons the other week. Deers. Yeah.
I do not miss those. But overall, I mean, it felt like a very basic, like I said, they had the modern flourishes, like your digital, LED entrance ramp. But other than that, it felt very much, to me, like an original WrestleMania type feeling.
Yeah, I thought so too. I totally agree with what you said. And to me, one of the best shots, the strength of what you said is totally true. The crane shots, like to me, Ospreay's entrance where they had the fireworks going off across the whole stadium. Yeah. It's like this felt WrestleMania level on there when that happened. The stage itself, if you notice, there's really no ramp to the ring here. It was just like a straight up floor walk, pretty much to the ring. And I'm not saying positive or negative. But there was no like super, like you said, the WrestleMania stage this year probably cost like $10 million of everything in it. And it was the size of a small village they put together in this ramp at the entrance. This All In show was not nearly as big as that, but like you said, they had the LED screen, as you would expect, on there, and just a normal ramp, tons of fans. But when they got to the sky view, and a lot of the special, I like that they did a good job of giving multiple people. Ospreay's really stood out to me as being spectacular, but a lot of people got special entrances and stuff like that we'll talk about on the show. Some of them were better than others, but still, I like the effort that they were able to put it on there. Put that on there. One thing I will criticize, because if we criticize in every match, I'll be complaining about it every match. I don't want to annoy people with that. I thought, and the thing is, it's not like this is a new criticism, but this show especially, JR really drug the show down on commentary, in my opinion. I thought he was like terrible, especially early on. And it's clear that he hates the show, much like everyone else in this company, apparently, backstage. He just hates this whole company, just commentating it. But I was so impressed with Nigel when he got there. He wasn't around for the 0 hour we're going to talk about, but when he was on commentary, I thought he did everything he could to make this show great. And I thought he did a fantastic job. And I was very disappointed in the JR, because you thought that would have been, this is a WrestleMania level show. Like, this is your time. Step up. And the other guys were all their usual selves. I would say Taz and Tony and Excalibur. Did you have any thoughts on the commentary?
Yeah. Same, criticisms of JR. He just,
he hates the show.
He never seems like he's having fun. I think it's like my same sort of frustrations with Kevin Kelly, at times where it's like they really try to, like, sometimes they're able to make their frustrations and like dislikes come through more than actually putting over the matches, and the stories and the in-ring. So it's one of those things where, working in video games, one of my biggest pet peeves is when you're in the middle of a mission and the character, you're collecting like 10 different things and it's way too many fucking things, right? And the character's like, oh, why do I have to do all this? And it's like, if you're going to tell me you don't want to be there, why the fuck should I be here? So
that's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever played this, but they came out with a Deadpool game a few years ago. And like half of the game, and I know that's kind of his gimmick as a character, is that he always breaks the fourth wall. And it's done to spectacular effect at times and stuff. I'm a fan of the movies, don't get me wrong. But in the game, there were parts where he was like, this level design sucks. It's so, like, you can't do anything with this. Like, why didn't they put more time into developing this better? And it's like, that's kind of funny and all, but actually, it's less funny when what you're saying is so true that it makes it worse when you're pointing out how bad this game is, when you could have just made a better game at the end of the day. And with JR, he was harping on stuff at times that there was no reason for him to be as bitter as he was. Like, I remember there was a part in the 6-man, and like Juice it was like a totally innocuous deal. He just made a pinfall on somebody, and JR was like, "That's a weak ass cover." There, and it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about, JR? And there were other times where he was like, you could call it DQ in some of these matches, ref, there. And it's like, yes, we get it. There's stupid stuff. We don't need you harboring this, belaboring these points over and over again. So I was very surprised at how and like I said, that's probably a common criticism of him. It's something that's been said a million times in his shows. But in this particular show, I would have thought he would have done a lot better to at least be happy, like be hyped. This is a big show. Does anybody in this company know that? That was kind of my initial thought going into the show, was like, does anybody in this company know this is an 80,000 person show, the biggest notified attendance of all time in pro wrestling? But nobody seems to know it based on certain actions from certain people that we will talk about. And even before, with the stuff with when we talked about Cash there. It's like, does anybody have any sense of the history you guys are making? Because it doesn't seem like anybody cares. And I was very surprised by that. But there's also some trouble, especially in the Stadium Stampede match. Some of the camera work was pretty bad. Like, they were missing some stuff here and there that they could have done a lot better on, I thought. Even for a chaotic match like that, I thought they struggled at times with the camera work. Some of it was good. I think but especially by the end, they did all right, for the main event and stuff. But I do think there were some production quibbles, not necessarily in the set design. I thought all that stuff was, like, well beyond what you would want, like, very good. Some of the commentary and the camera work took me down a little bit on there. I don't know if you felt the same way. But let's get into the show here. Let's start with the 0 hour. Like I said, the stadium outset, Wembley just looked awesome. The crowd was rocking all night, all 5 hours or however long the show was. They were into it until the closing bell of the main event. The crowd was so hyped to be there. And it started off with Aussie Open versus MJF and Adam Cole. And to me, this match wasn't even about the match. It was about the result. And they ended up flipping the titles here. MJF and Cole getting the win here. It was all built around, the kangaroo kick and the double clothesline. And I mean, like on Cage Match, it says it's a 6 minute, 58 second match. So that shows you that this was not about the wrestling, but more so the story aspect of it. When we had previewed the show, I predicted that Roderick would play a role in this match, but it didn't happen. They saved all that for the main event, and they just won. What did you think of this title change?
This is my least expected outcome, was just a clean title change. It definitely served its purpose as the opener. There's definitely something to be said about the way in which Cole and MJF have gotten over, what's essentially just the most basic double clothesline and a drop kick, right? And someone had recently posted this on their Twitter or somewhere, I can't remember, but talking about how the kangaroo kick was created by like Jewish wrestlers in the 40s or something. Like, that's where like the name itself came from, was this Jewish wrestler. So if there is that connection there as well, I mean, it's just like some really nice link to the past that, MJF is doing. Is a match, it's pretty throwaway. I hope that Cole and MJF actually show up on ROH television, should they actually hold these belts, as opposed to just defending them on AEW. ROH could definitely use the boost, and it would be exciting to have them in there. I don't know if MJF has ever done ROH, and Cole being like one of their greatest alumni would be exciting. To me, this feels like more than anything just a smart business decision. Following the pay-per-view's live airing, you obviously still want to sell people on it to purchase afterwards. And this is a match that you can watch on YouTube at any time, in perpetuity pretty much. So to see this and like this sort of electricity in the crowd, this feeling, etc., this is something just really great to have on like your socials and public channels to bring in, people who perhaps didn't buy it at first glance. So yeah, I thought it served its purpose. Again, this is one of those matches where like we both said, it existed for a couple reasons, and I don't have much to say about the afterwards until we sort of see what's happening with this story.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I will say one thing. To put this on the pre-show, I would have thought that they would have wanted to have a hook for the main event, because this was free for everybody to watch on YouTube. Trying to ideally get some last-second buys. And instead, it's just like the easy win here for them. I thought that they would have tried to add some kind of drama to the main event, but I guess they didn't really need to overall. I don't know how successful it was or wasn't. Obviously, Tony Khan knows. But for like a crowd-popping moment, the crowd went nuts for this. They loved this whole thing. And I'll talk about the storyline at large when we get to the main event, but it played right into it. So I do like that the start of the show directly led to the finish, pretty much. It's like an album where the first song like directly correlates to like the last song or the CD, pretty much an album back in the old days. Like I remember when I bought like the first Boys Like Girls album. The first song was The Great Escape, and the last one was Holiday. And the first one had the same lyric was in both songs. The first one was all happy and energetic and positive, but then Holiday was like very mellow and sad. So it like led directly to what I thought, oh, this is genius. Like that's the same lyric that was in the first song on there. So that's kind of how I felt about this. So I did like that. Pretty much. And Boys Like Girls does have a new album coming out too, which I can't wait to see after like 10 years since they made a CD. But regardless of that, it was interesting. They show Sasha Banks, also known as Mercedes Moné, in the crowd. They showed her at the weirdest times here. You would have thought they would have tried to set something up with the women's match, but they kept cutting to her throughout the show. But especially like they cut to her when they had the Acclaimed come out on there. That was like her big spot as a fan when they cut to her. But I thought that was interesting. A lot of reports are they're already talking. And the fact that they showed her so much on camera makes me think I'd be surprised if she's not in AEW when she's healthy. Let's just put it that way, I would say. Other match of the show, this also led right into the show, directly right into the show, considering what happened. Hook versus Jack Perry. Another match that wasn't really about the wrestling at all. Pretty much. Everyone's going to know for the glass spot where Jack tried to show up CM Punk there saying, it's real glass, cry me a river. And everybody was like, oh no, that's a shot because Punk didn't want him to use the real glass. And at the time it was innocuous. Hook got the win. Taz got a little emotional on commentary. We'll get into the Punk stuff very soon. But just for this match itself, I don't have a lot to say, but I thought it was a nice moment for Hook, and Taz really shined on commentary, in my opinion, here. What'd you think?
This was one of my favorite matches on the show.
Yeah.
I am a sucker for car-based matches.
That's what got you, was the car. I'm not here. Okay.
Yeah, Shane Mercer versus fucking dumbass Schlack from IWA East Coast Masters of Pain, like 2021. John Wayne Murdoch versus Orin Veidt, ICW Insane 8 2020. Both of our parking lot brawls at AEW. It's just, it's like that Choco Pro thing, right? Where, hey, we're going to utilize windowsills, like turnbuckle ropes. And so when wrestlers are given the task to tell a story on like a structure within a structure that's not a ring and then still utilize it in the same format is always just exciting to me. And I thought they made the most of the car. I don't know, in terms of like a feud blow off, I really like this. Like I would give this a solid 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah. And, with like the tag match being like a 2.5 before this. But yeah, no, I was a huge fan of this. I thought it had great heat. And to say like when Jack Perry said this line originally, my initial reaction wasn't, oh, CM Punk. It almost felt more, I mean, obviously now we could point it and link it and all these things, but again, I think it speaks to the ego and narcissism of Punk and sort of this poisoned, consciousness around it where every single thing is connected to him now.
Yeah.
Because like there's so many other factors to this, right? Like the sort of blowback that Jack got online in terms of like people trying to think he's taking a vacation, whatever the fuck, who cares? But this felt way more like, one, it's Real Glass, Cry Me a River, like, I'm going to kill Hook, which I thought was fun. And then two, it's just like, screw you all. I'm Jack Perry now, and I'm going to do what I want. And to me, it was a really great heel showing for Perry. Like when he first came out and this immediate switch, it was a little bit awkward, but I think he's done really well coming into the role. I don't know, it felt very much like a classic ECW match at times as well. So I was into it all.
The only thing I didn't like about it, like I said, never mind Punk, I really didn't even care about that when I watched it live. It was good at first. I didn't like it because of what happened later in the show with the Stadium Stampede match. The finish of that match is built around glass. So are you telling me that that's fake glass and this is real? It's like, whoa, why did we put that there? Like, overall, like that could have been – it was a stupid idea. Like in every way. Like, never mind Punk. I didn't like him saying that, like, oh, it's not fake glass. We don't do fake stuff here. Like all the other matches, real, because I need it to be real on there. It's like, oh, you don't need to do that. But I will say I like the idea of this character that Perry's been doing lately. Like, I think this is a very good, like, they have the skeleton of a great heel with him. I think they're missing something. And like I said, I said this at the start. I think that they would really benefit, and he would really benefit by a lot of bells and whistles kind of placed around him. Like, for example, remember when he first came out, he got that promo like, I'm banging the hottest girl around, or whatever he said. I think, why are they not paired together? Like he should be on TV making out with her every week, pissing off the fans. Like, that's such easy heat. And I would put some big guys with him, at least one, like maybe two even. Just some guys around him to be his bodyguards of sorts, that he could be both, the chicken shit heel that he's playing, but also have a threat around him. And I think that would have made this match really good if you had a true force that Hook could have even, like, if he had suplexed some big guy. Again, I don't know who this would be exactly. Maybe like Lance Archer or something like that. Throw him through the glass.
Is Wardlow injured? Because part of me is almost like, man, he is doing nothing now. Just put him with Jack Perry.
I was thinking, maybe like a Lance Archer or somebody.
Yeah, Lance Archer, just a big boy.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have him suplex him through the glass or something like that to make him, and have Perry every week, sick him on people, destroy people, give him some big heat. Something like that. I would say, something easy like that. But that's my only problem with that. But still, I like the idea of the character, and I think there's more good to be had. Like in the future, I wouldn't. Obviously, there's a lot that's worth talking about on the show, so to speak, that we'll go into. And let's go ahead and get into it. We can't dodge it forever because it was the opening match, CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. And obviously, it came out later about what had happened right before this with everything. But let's just look at the match as it is right now. We'll get into the CM Punk stuff afterwards. So with that said, this crowd was 100% on Samoa Joe's side here. It's like, this was a great reaction for Joe. Like, he looked like a superstar. He did fantastic work here too. And we're going to have a lot to say about the chick magnet in a little bit, but I have to give him credit for working this match as the dickhead that he truly is in his heart. And it made Joe look like a great, heroic, badass babyface, which I think this company's really light on. They have good babyfaces and like people that the crowd likes, but there's nobody that's like, yeah, like this, like now you've done it. And I thought Joe did a great job of playing that here. They did some tributes to Terry Funk, which I thought was really cool. Again, I want to give him credit for that. Joe just looks like a beast. He did when Punk tried to do this lame plancha to the outside, Joe did his walk away spot, did the jacking off motion with his hand. I thought, yes, like I love this guy. Like this is the hero we need here. Yep. Really good. But in the end, they did lock in. Oh, and this is the part where JR actually was happy when Punk did the spinning toe hold, like Terry Funk did. And JR was like, God bless him. God bless Terry Funk here. That was good. And in the end, they did the heel finish too, because if you remember, they were on the top rope and Punk actually had to bite him. Like he went for the full bite, and then he used a Pepsi plunge here to end the match. Obviously a tribute to their old school matches and things like that here. I have to say, like I said, it will be open season on Punk a little bit later, but I like this match. Honestly, I thought it was I think it would have been actually better if it wasn't the opener, if they had actually done like a faster paced match, because this was more like an old school type of match between these two. And I think it would have been better maybe a little later in the card, but for what they did, I thought this was a really solid match and a good start to the show. What about you?
Yeah, this was the first CM Punk match that I've liked since he came back. I thought it was great. Give this one like a 3 3/4. I loved the spot where Joe swung Punk into the announcer's desk and Punk went through it. I can't recall having seen that before, like just busting through the fucking thing. I thought that was just great. It gave me that, oh my God, shock factor, like when Omega put Ospreay's head through the table at Wrestle Kingdom. Just that kind of like structural brutality that you're not expecting to sort of go that far. This was definitely the Samoa Joe show. Like Joe just at the top of his game. And there was a moment partway through the match where I just kind of got really happy. Like we were so lucky to still have Samoa Joe, because there was so much, his WWE run was, really unfortunate in terms of all of the injuries, and then just, being relegated to commentary, and then that weird NXT role. Just a lot of, seems like mismanaged booking and pushes met with stops from injuries and numerous other things. So I was just really happy that Joe was able to have this. And yeah, I think you hit all the main parts. I liked the finish. I'm happy that he didn't try to go hit him with a GTS after the last one. Yeah, I don't know. I thought this was definitely one of the better matches on the show, and I say that wholeheartedly, even with how much contempt I have for Chipmunk.
CP Monk, the straight-edge Chipmunk. That's who we needed on this show, I think.
That's what it is, CP Monk, not Chipmunk. Okay,
yeah. Hey, that's a deep cut right there, too. We laid on you here.
Yeah.
I still – what did you think of – never mind CP Monk. What about CM Hogan? Here, going for the Hogan spot that he seems to really love doing lately. He's done that on Collision too. What is he trying to tell us with this Hogan business?
That he is in real time letting us down. And I told a friend yesterday, actually, I said, what's really been helpful for me? I said CM Punk has actually been instrumental to my mental health over the last year, because a year ago I was not in a great place, right? And CM Punk had just ruined pro wrestling with his, actions following All Out. A year later, I'm in such a better place, and CM Punk is still a piece of shit. So his complete lack of growth has really helped me really focus on how far I've come. So thank you, Phil.
Hey, listen. And now through Wrestle Update, this is like therapy almost now. We can, whenever you're feeling down, you have Punk doing something that you can talk about here. And let it all out. Don't hold anything back. The people need to know. The people need to hear it. And I need to hear it for myself too. But I will be nice here. It will be interesting to see the fate of the real world title here after this match as well, considering what happened. But the cage match users liked it. They gave it so many votes on this show, but this one had a 7.69. Very good rating. Still below a couple other matches, but a high rating on the show. And I thought it was a good start to the show overall. They ended up they talked about the Golden Elite versus the Bullet Club Gold feud. I kind of said this on our last show we talked about AEW on. I really hate that they've turned Takeshita into basically a goon for Don Callis. And I think a lot of my issues with not just this match, but the Ospreay match. I think Callis is his performances are not bad at all. He was a good talker. I thought when they first started with him, Takeshita, it was great. But for the story purposes, why is he the focus of this feud with Omega at the same time also being the focus of a feud with Jericho, and instead you're overshadowing Ospreay and Takeshita, two of the highlight performers on this card, I would say. So I was really just not into this feud overall going in there. But the match itself was good. Overall, I think a lot of people were disappointed in this because they wanted that singles match with Takeshita and Omega. And ultimately, this match was what it was. It was a build-up to the singles match. Overall, you had Hangman and Ibushi here. What did you think about Ibushi in this match? Because he's gotten a lot of mixed reviews here. What did you think about Ibushi's performance in this match? Just the match itself, I would say.
It's, for me, so I saw Ibushi live in LA, and his match against Mike Bailey I thought was phenomenal. His match against Janela was fun. Like I said, I think Joey Janela is a great mind. Sometimes I'm not as much into his in-ring work as much. So I don't want to judge that one necessarily, but it's hard in these six-mans and multi-mans where a lot of the action is more so predicated on being in the right spot at the right time. It's really hard to judge these performances. I want to see a real Ibushi singles match. Nothing really stuck out. Jumping ahead, this was my least favorite match on the show.
The least favorite match on the whole show? Wow.
On the whole show. And
I think this match accomplished the least on the show. Even though it was the setup, I really didn't think Takeshita came across like a big star, even beating Omega. That's not a good sign when you're ideally getting a pin on one of your top stars. I don't think this really made anyone any more excited. If you're excited about it, it's because of the match quality you expect, and which we all expect because we know they're awesome, overall. But I don't think this match really was a great shining point for Takeshita or Omega or anybody, really. I don't think anybody really gained a lot from this match.
Yeah, debuting Takeshita's new theme at this 80,000 person arena, and it's just a fucking ball. What is that called? It's a Tibetan thing. I can't remember. Yeah. Omnisphere, I think is what it's called. The Omnisphere. And that has to be the shittiest entrance in pro wrestling right now. It's shittier than Dexter Loomis's somehow. And his fucking entrance sucks too. See, now this is me I think WWE has done an amazing job with rehabilitating Shinsuke Nakamura, showing that Japanese wrestlers and foreign stars in general can function on their own without mouthpieces. We know Takeshita's an amazing talker. To me, one of the all-time great promos in pro wrestling is the post-match between him and Chris Brooks from a couple years back. There's so much heart and soul in that. And it feels like they have stripped Takeshita of all charisma, all interesting elements. I watched the entire post-show media scrum, and Callis says, I'm not in the business of popping people or giving them what they want. When Takeshita comes out, we're about inspiring, fear. And I'm like, there's nothing intimidating about this. It's fucking annoying. And it's boring. And it really, the entire time I was waiting for something to happen in this entrance, and then it just ended. And all I could think was, The Godfather, my God, how they've massacred my boy. 20 minutes. This had the pacing of a Collision main event, which is not my favorite. My friends who come over for these shows, none are like wrestling fans in the way we are, right? Like they watch wrestling with me and that's pretty much it. And it's funny because after the next match, right, the tag match, they were like, God, that one was great. That was probably like 10 minutes? And that one was longer than this 6-man.
Yeah,
this 6-man felt like a fucking hour. Like really, with all of the people involved in this match, I think that's why it's my least favorite. Like there could definitely be arguments for the women's match or the trios match, but those at least had consequence, had developments, had moments. This felt like, hey, let's take 6 incredibly talented, people and do absolutely nothing with them. And I don't even think it ever hit a first gear for me. So yeah, I would give this like a straight up 2 out of 5, 2 stars.
Yeah, no. And I thought the wrestling was, it's not like there was bad wrestling or anything like that, but it was really uninteresting. And like you said, the pacing was so slow that, again, I think I would have changed this card around if I could in hindsight. I would have had Punk and Joe go on later and maybe make these guys the opener just so and tell them specifically, hey, we need this to electrify the crowd. You're the opener. Maybe they needed that. I have a feeling that a lot of these guys may not have been that motivated to be in this match, to be honest. Second match on the card, like you said, this is a TV match, ultimately. A 6-man match that nobody will remember in 2 weeks. And it's a shame because Omega and Page have meant so much to the company. Takeshita's been one of their best overall performers. Juice and Jay have gotten great reviews on Collision. Mm-hmm. But I just something about this didn't work, and I really don't like the storyline at all. I want to see them all move on. I agree with you about Takeshita, his quote-unquote fear heel entrance or whatever. It's basically like, hey, you know who's a really great character in wrestling? We want you, Takeshita. We have you as you, but we want you to be like Dijak. Because he comes out with a leather jacket, the shades. It's like a total goon. He's a goon. He's like, there's nothing special. Anybody could be doing what he does. And obviously they probably won't be as good of a wrestler as he is, but his character is just nothing to me. And I'm very disappointed. Because when they started, you mentioned it, when he was on the mic, they put him on the mic that one week when Callis talked and then they let Takeshita talk. He got super heat, kind of great promo. Just weird stuff all around. And I wasn't feeling this match either. I'd probably go closer to maybe a 2.5, on there. But it wasn't anything. To be honest, anything below a 4 might as well be 0. When you see these names at the end of the day, let alone a 2.5 or 2. But thankfully we had the next match. They again talked about how FTR and the Bucks, they've had 2 matches before, legendary matches, and now they're gonna not only go for the titles, but go for the bragging rights of who the GOAT team is in AEW. And this, like you said, this match was technically longer than the 6-man before it, but definitely the quality of the match was higher here. The fast-paced way that they wrestled was so good. This was the second highest rated match below the main event, which we will talk about when we get there. But this was a really good match, I have to admit. Again, we talked about it with the Wheeler arrests and everything. That was kind of crazy that this was even happening. Even crazier that they retained the titles.
Did you see the Fear the Revolver sign?
Someone's clever in London. But yeah, that was really unexpected. I thought for sure the Bucks were going to win. I think hopefully they know something that nobody knows. There's some evidence that they're holding on to for court and they're keeping it hush hush. Or maybe Tony Khan just doesn't care. It's just screw it. We're just going to do what we're going to do. Nobody died, so we'll just move on. That seems to be his motivation in AEW. If everyone's alive, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. Pretty much. And that's what we saw here. And they got the win. Again, a shocking upset, in my opinion. But still, say what you want about him, the wrestling was really strong here, and I thought this definitely got the crowd back on track here. And they did I thought they did a really good job. It looked like they teased everything they could. And we even saw Cash do the Springboard 450, which was a callback to their original match, which you brought up when we previewed it as well. They called back to that. They did a lot of callbacks to their earlier matches, and I thought they did them really well. In the end, though, they went for the Meltzer driver, countered that, Shatter Machine got the win in 21 minutes, 39 seconds. What did you think about this, along with your wonderful friends that joined you as well?
Yeah, no, this felt like the first match on the show where people really got like up. And I know, I will say there was like a little personal frustration for me in seeing Harwood there again. I thought the match was really good. Like, it was well worked. Wheeler. Oh, fuck Dax Harwood too. I hate him.
Yeah, he didn't even do anything. He's just annoying. So, like, you know what? I know you got this criminal, but fuck Harwood.
I'm literally going to walk into his house during dinner and grab the food off his family's table and walk out. So,
what if he got food you don't like, though? Will you still take it just on principle?
Yeah, and I'm going to eat it still, just out of spite. Like, I'm going to look him in the eyes, like, without blinking, and just do, like, that, like, cartoon swallow where I'm like, I don't like this, but I got to do it, right? No, like, the final, I would say the third act for this was what it was all about for me. Up until then, like, God, like you were saying with the last match, right? Great moves, but without feeling. And it's when you watch a movie, right? And they do one of those really beautiful long takes. There's a recent A24 film that just came out called Talk to Me, and it opens up with this super long take, hundreds of people at this house party, and they're going and they're doing all these maneuvers, and it's really flashy and it's really technically sound. And then all I could ask was, what's the purpose and what are you trying to say with this? And sometimes, flashy and good art without any soul or purpose is almost worse than bad art, because at least they tried to put something in it. And I would say the first and the second act, while it was well wrestled, it was the exact story beats I expected.
Yeah. Good.
In terms of, this is what, we're going to talk about. We're going to call back this. We're going to do, the tag team finishers from the past or whatever. Yeah. And that's just kind of how FTR matches go now. I thought after the second act, they were kind of finally able to break away from that mold and have their own, cap off to this. I really liked the final stretch. I was really surprised that FTR won. This was the same exact situation that happened with the Usos when Jimmy got his last DUI.
They won anyway.
Yeah, they're like, surely he's going to get taken off TV, and then he got the pin. And that was the same thing, was Cash got the fucking pin here. And, to me, that is such a statement, whether you're trying to make one or not. And to me, it's just saying this person is not accountable for their actions. I'm not going to, weigh that into the match, but I would give this like 3.75, like Punk and Joe.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I thought that they made their 21 minutes really, really count. They laid it out great, even though the first and second acts didn't necessarily pull me in all the way. Like, they hit the beats they had to. And again, if you can do 22 minutes, it's a full ass episode of television, right? That they just gave you, and they pulled it off well.
Yeah, and you see a lot of the comments on Cage Match. They're saying, yeah, this was great and all, but it wasn't at the heights we expected it or wanted it. And I think that's interesting, because I agree with that. I really agree with everything you said there. And I think it's interesting that they, like I said, I mean, listen, having someone with no accountability in AEW, that's unheard of. I mean, this promotion is known for really keeping things in order, always in check, no drama allowed. At the first sight of it, they will get rid of you. But somehow Cash has been able to dodge that, and they got the titles again. like you said, the match was what it was. I just think my main problem with this was, on this particular show, I actually forgive this of all the matches for not having that great build-up, because it really is like, this is almost like a celebration of one of your staples of the company's history in the Young Bucks. But my issue with this is, okay, FTR won, really good match, nothing bad to say about the match. I'm not even gonna steal food from Dax like you want to. And listen, I'm gonna go to his house. I'm just gonna ask him for some food because he has a lot more money than me. So I'm just gonna ask him, please. Like, I'm not like Nello, give me some food. Like, I'm not gonna hate on you. But no, maybe not. He's got a lot, so he probably wouldn't miss it, to be honest, even if you did steal food from him. You know, Pimp C once said he ate so many shrimp he got iodine poison right now. I think Dax has that as well.
I think Dax eats kid cuisine. I don't think he eats shrimp. So
kid cuisine? Hey, we are not going to take shots at the penguin of kid cuisine on this show whatsoever. I compare him to Dax. I refuse to allow it. But listen, the chicken nuggets and the macaroni, that was a staple of my childhood, my friend. When you grow up in Memphis, that's the kind of dinners you get here. But yeah, good match, long story short. But what I was going to say is, where do they go from here? Like, what interesting paths do they have for the tag titles now?
I mean, this is the big question. You know, we're recording this, 2.5 hours before Dynamite?
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, my thought was Punk and MJF for the world title, but I have no idea outside of Omega Takeshita, the announced matches, right? OC versus Moxley. I have no fucking clue what's going to be on this show. Absolutely none. So I'm excited to see what they do tonight. I have no idea where they go next. Like, personally, I think Bullet Club Gold coming back in and getting the titles.
Yeah, they did win but they already did that match not that long ago, which was a great match, I thought. The 58-minute match they did on Collision.
Yeah. Well, because right now they're 1-1, right? Technically.
Oh, okay.
Because Bullet Club Gold pinned FTR the week before. FTR won the 2 out of 3 falls. And then, so 2 out of 3 falls, depending on how you want to count your math, right?
Yeah, they're either 1-1 or 2-2, but either way, they're both.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I would love to see them run it back, just because, honestly, I thought that Jay White, when he's matched up with the right wrestlers, like, he is very much a Timothy Thatcher type. Where, like, when you get him in the ring with someone he can work with, like, goddamn, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because he can cook. And it's so weird because I'm like, man, Jay White's so slow, but I love 50-minute Jay White matches. But yeah, that's like, looking ahead, I'm trying to think, you know, House of Black has lost the trios titles. I would love to finally get a main event Malachi. You can have Brody and Buddy. I don't know. Best Friends would be fucking awesome with them winning the Stadium Stampede.
That would be perfect. Yeah, that would be yeah.
You know, I love Trent and Chuck. Like, so many people this past week had given Chuck Taylor his flowers, which I really love. Like, he was definitely one of my favorite wrestlers on the indies back in, like, 2013.
Yeah, me too.
What was it? Popping Dogs and Talking Hogs, the Best Friend shoots on high spots. Like, those are some of my favorite things. Like, because they would just get hammered, and Roderick Strong's like, yeah, I used to pick my nose till it bled everywhere when I was in 3rd grade when I wanted to go home from school. They're like, what? Or, you know, they're telling stories about how Jay Briscoe, when he goes to the restroom, he has to take off literally every single piece of clothing, and he hangs it over the stall. And I'm like, this is the shit that I come to wrestling for, man.
This is my wrestling.
Yeah. So I would love, you know, for the Best Friends to finally get that title win, because when I look at, like, your OG tag teams in AEW, at this point, like, you know, you've had Lucha Bros, you've had Young Bucks. I feel like it's Best Friends and, you know, Santana and Ortiz, should they team together going forward. But those feel like your 2, like, OG teams to me at this point that really haven't hit that ceiling. So,
or it could have been Swerve and Fox if they didn't stupidly break them up last week. Yeah,
like you were saying, and I'll talk about it more in the coffin match, but it just, you could have done that 100 other ways.
Yeah, absolutely on that for sure. But long story short, we like the match, regardless of whatever you want to say about that. And let's get into the same Stampede now, since we talked about the best friend so much. Totally with you about Chucky T. I'll go back even further than that. I remember when he put the video up of his training video where he woke up at like 3:30 p.m. to watch Boy Meets World, and then rolled around in a wheelchair in his house because he was too lazy to walk, and he just like Metal Gear Solid 3. I was like, this is I don't have a wheelchair, but besides that, this is my life pretty much at the time in 2008 or 9. I was doing those same things he was doing, eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch, watching Boy Meets World, and playing Metal Gear Solid. That was my life, and wrestling as well at that time as well. So we were really kindred spirits from the start. He went on to have a long career as a more comedic character. I always thought that he's kind of an interesting guy because in AEW, he doesn't really get a lot of mic time or anything like that. His personality from the indies is a lot different than we see here on TV, not necessarily him online or in real life or anything. But they did this whole storyline. I also think this match build-up kind of sucked, to be honest. Like, nothing against the match at all, but just you did this whole angle with the 6-on-6, and there was whatever happened with Phoenix. He couldn't come, so they had the Visa switch. And instead of having somebody else, this is another problem I have with this show. This is a big issue, actually, and I'll talk about it now. How hard would it have been for them to not just do a battle royal, to get people wrestling in Wembley? It doesn't have to be your big stars. I mean, we'll talk about in the women's match. A lot was made of Emi Sakura not being on the show. Why not do a women's battle royal? Get 15, 20 people in there. Do a men's one. Put Kip Sabian in front of his hometown crowd or whatever. You know, there's the locker room. Clearly, there's morale issues. Like, that's clear coming out of this show, even after this. Why not do something, give people a memorable moment they'll never forget? Just let them walk out, have their entrance. Why didn't they do that? And in this match specifically, why not just throw somebody else in here that you could have had a 6-on-6 match? What would it have hurt to just not do that? So I was very just shaking my head at this when you've already announced this. This doesn't make any sense. Or you could have done something where Phoenix got taken out with the crowbar, and then it was a 6-on-5 match. It would have totally worked for the storyline. It's like, hey, you said 6 versus 6. It was your idea, Kingston. Like, now we have another guy. And like, there's so much they could have done here to add those extra guys, and they just avoided it. So I didn't like that at all. I thought it was really shaky. Although I'm very happy to see Proud and Powerful back, obviously. But the match itself, this is going to be an interesting one. What did you think of this? No, I want to throw it to you first here. This had an 8.02 rating on Cage Match, so a lot of people liked it.
So I missed like the first couple minutes. So I missed Penta getting taken out. So I came back in, I was like, where's Pentagon? And everyone's like, oh, is he in the mask? Like, yeah, like, oh, he got taken out. So when Penta Oscuro ran back out, I was dying, dude. I was like, oh my God. And he came back just to do the spot through the table.
Yeah,
so I thought that was super funny.
With the ladder on top of it.
Dude, and then again, that was like Ricochet and Logan were like, yo, we're going through this fucking table. This was my favorite match on the show. Like, I am a huge Blackpool Combat Club fan. Like, my old dog was named Moxley. I really like the story with OC pinning Claudio, and then the post-show media scrum, you know, him being like, I've pinned Yuta, I've pinned Claudio. There's one more person that I really want and need to get the pin on. So I like that setup through this match. I was really interested to see how they were going to do it. And because, you know, with the stadium stampedes thus far, it was pretty much like an anarchy in the arena. Yeah. I cannot tell you what the difference between those two matches is at all, other than Anarchy in the Arena had a very questionable musical performance.
Yeah, that's right.
So fucking weird. I loved the whole final stretch of this. Like, Orange Cassidy breaking the glass and then wrapping his hand, like that whole set piece I just thought was badass. Like, if you're gonna slow down a match to kind of do some acting stuff, like that's what I liked there. You know, it made me think of, God, what was it? Alex Colon versus someone, maybe Mance at like Tournament of Survival 2020. And it's in the middle of this deathmatch tournament, and they cut in between matches to backstage, and you see these two guys who have already wrestled a deathmatch, and they're just bleeding and cut up and fucking shaking, and they're getting glass taped to their hands for a Taipei deathmatch. Yeah. And I was like, man, this is cool. And so to feel like that's like the sort of desperation and like brutality where I'm like, yes, that's what I want in a Blackpool Combat Club match. That's what I expect in a match like this. You know, Kingston repeating his spot where he's just walking down the ramp with the weapon. That was cool. Trent taking every ungodly, terrible bump. Like everyone got a fight outside the ring, and then for whatever reason, Trent just took like the shittiest neck and back bumps in the ring for the entire match, pretty much. The awful waffle in front of 80,000 people.
That was awesome.
So sick. Like, yeah, you know, so much happened in this match that it's hard for me to really talk about it.
Yeah.
Santina and Ortiz felt like complete afterthoughts. Like, I really can't tell you anything they did. And I think that's a symptom in these Blackpool matches is Pac and Takeshita definitely felt like afterthoughts in Blood and Guts as well, to where, you know, they're just hired guns for this. And going back to the 6-man, Ortiz was doing the fork spots for a bit, and he looked at the camera and he's like, this one's for you, D, miss you, or some shit like that, you know, which really, really makes me think that Homicide was the 6-man in this. Especially with the fork, like the whole fork stretch as well.
Why couldn't we have had Homicide in this match? That would have made perfect sense with the story. You could have given him a great moment, somebody getting his flowers, much like Chuck E. T.
Yep. And again, you could have even just had Jamie Hayter come out and say hello. Like,
yeah, fuck, perfect. And like, why didn't that happen? Like that's something that should be asking. Like, why not? It's so easy to just have her come out and say, hey. You know, even you give her like a 1-minute promo, like that's all you need.
Yep. It's just like WrestleMania, right? How you bring out the old legends. You bring out Rock for a 5-minute segment. You have Eric Rowan come in the ring and he hits him with the rock bottom, right? Jamie Hayter's in the ring. Ruby Soho comes out and talks shit to her, and Jamie hits her with one move if she's able to, and if not, have
just blast her in the head with a crutch or something like that.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Boom. And that's all you really need. Like, and it's just like the whole, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but going back to what you were saying again about just getting people on the show, this show did not feel considerate of the roster. Yeah, it felt like, and again, a lot of these matches, I don't know why you had to have Will Ospreay and Chris Jericho, and we'll talk about it later, but there's just a lot of stuff where, you know, obviously you want to court Will Ospreay and try to get him, but like, this guy's not even signed to the fucking company. And he's in the second biggest singles feud on the show. And to me, that's incredibly symptomatic of WWE and WrestleMania and the same complaints that they get of like, why are these part-timers and other people getting these massive slots when, you know, the people who are busting their asses every week are left off the show? I'm not a Sammy Guevara fan, but when I saw him come out with Jericho or whatever, or help him, I was just like, damn, like even one of their pillars isn't even on this show, right? And it's the lack of AEW identity. And this goes back to a lot of big shows for a lot of companies, right? Like GCW Hammerstein, how all of their top stars lost in matches to, you know, people that didn't even wrestle for the company. And it's still just like, I don't understand if it's an insecurity or what it is, but like you got here because of the people that you've used, and, you know, you're going to succeed because of using the people that have helped you get there, right? But I don't even remember what we were talking about. But yeah,
Stadium Stampede.
Stadium Stampede was my favorite match of the show, 4.25 stars. Yeah.
I thought there's a lot of this I actually didn't like that much, actually, but by the end of it, I did like it. I think if the finish had been different than what it was, I would have downgraded this match because I thought the finish was so great with Orange getting the pin. Because he really has been your MVP this year of your weekly shows, your week-to-week stuff. The stuff with the glass, I mentioned it earlier. I think it would have been, I remembered that about the Jack Perry thing with the fake glass or whatever. And by this point, it had already come out about him and Punk, and a lot of people were talking about that. But I still loved it. I still loved the finish. The stuff with, like you said, the Awful Waffle was great. The giant swing was great, too. A great moment. When Sue came in, that was a lot of fun. I didn't like Moxley kissing her like that.
Yeah, I hate that spot. I do not know why it's even thought of.
It would have been one thing, but for him specifically, whose wife is in this story, like a major part of the storyline, Dynamite, Kingston blasted Renee backstage and said, wait, don't interview me. Look what your husband did. And I mean, he did it great. He performed it great. But for Moxley to do that made no sense. Obviously, it's icky to think about, obviously. But just even as I can forgive a lot if it's a logical heel dick spot, like an asshole doing this, pretty much. And for him to do it, it just makes no sense for his character at all. Somebody who's all about violence and all of this stuff. I just thought it was like such a nonsensical and cheap spot. But once they got in, like you said, the Penta stuff I thought really didn't work, in my opinion. I mean, it was kind of cool to come in as Penta Obscuro, but things didn't work going in there. We saw the spot, too, where we talked about it on the GCW show, where the screwdriver got stabbed into the turnbuckle.
Yeah.
On there. So I was thinking, I was thinking about that. We were talking about that the other day. Was about that. So a lot of good stuff here. But at the end, though, I thought it all came together. Like it was better than the sum of its parts would be how I describe this match. But I would give it a rec as well. I don't know if it was my favorite match of the night, but I thought it was like very effective, and I was very happy by the end of it. And I loved the finish. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it's like sensory hardcore wrestling overload. Is towards the end, there's one spot that sticks out to me, and it was like the camera's sporadically cutting. I think Moxley and Kingston go through the barbed wire. OC hits Claudio with glass. Someone gets suplexed on the outside of the ring into Legos, which you never even saw get poured out. And I was like,
that's the camera work. I thought this match was where it was flawed. Yep. I don't even think we saw where they got busted open, or Kingston at least. He just walked into the shot bloody at some point. It's like you're missing these key moments, and some of them that are awesome, like the Legos, like you mentioned. I wish that they would have been able to capture all of this. I know it's part of the. It's like it's destined to be that way, though, in this match, right? The anarchy in the arena, stuff's going on. They're fighting all over the place. It's really hard to capture everything. But I thought you knew what this match was going to be. Like, you should have been planning for this overall. I thought the one from Double or Nothing, besides the horrible band that played, that had more of like a gritty feel to it, like a realistic fight feel. And like you said, this was like a hardcore spectacle match. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I've been playing Stadium Stampede mode in Fight Forever.
How is that? How is that looking?
It is so shitty. But no. Like it is one of the worst feeling combat, like mechanics. Honestly, it's one of those things where I would be like, damn, I would not put this out in a game, but I've been playing it here and there. It's like, to me, it's pretty indefensible, but this match felt very structured in the sense of promoting it, because I'm pretty sure people started in different parts of the arena, right? Like some people were in like the skybox, some people were in like the food vendor area or whatever. And that's pretty much how Stampede, the mode starts, is you literally pick like your landing zone, like a Call of Duty, and it's in the middle of the ring or field, in your food vendor area, in the skybox, stuff like that pretty much. So it felt very like a live action adaptation of their specific game mode and their approach to said game mode. But yeah, like in terms of the camera cutting, I can definitely see how it would be flawed. For me, I enjoyed it a little bit because, the reason I guess I enjoyed it or didn't take as much issue with it would be, there's some sort of sick thrill for me to just like seeing the camera cut, and I'm like, when the fuck did Ortiz get Legos? Or like, when did Eddie start bleeding? This is insane. Like, I'm trying to keep up with the violence, and the violence keeps coming. But yeah, like again, if Moxley beats OC, this is definitely like the biggest, challenge as far. Yeah. Claudio and Yuta are also people I would love to see go after the tag titles,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I think you could even do Sting and Darby, like give Sting one big run. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff, but
that's my dream. Yeah. For Sting to get a title match. I love Sting and Darby and all of Sting's matches that he's had in AEW. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. They go into the women's match here. Again, a little brief. None of these, like, there was no WrestleMania level hype videos on this show or anything like that. I think that's one thing they could have learned from or taken from a little bit and to improve upon for next year and stuff like that. But basically, the long story of it is they totally lied on TV and said they had these legendary 4-way matches, and that's why they're doing it. But in reality, they just needed a match to get Britt on the card here. So they made it a 4-way match. People had to win matches to get in there, except for Tony. Tony Storm, Britt Baker, Saraya, and Hikaru Shida, the champion. I noted here, I thought Shida, like the way she carried herself, despite what was going to happen, I thought she was like phenomenal as a champion. The way she looked, like she just looked amazing. Like in there, I thought her look was like among the best on the show. And the big entrance here, we forgot to mention earlier, the Young Bucks had the Freddie Mercury type of deal too in their entrance. So this is really turning into a Freddie Mercury tribute show as Saraya comes out with to "We Will Rock You" here, the famous Queen song, obviously, and her whole family is there. Ricky Knight Jr. and all the rest, Saraya, the original Saraya, I guess, are in here. It's like you have the whole family. They're playing this Queen music. Everybody was pissed online because everyone knew that Emi Sakura is such a huge Queen fan, and she wasn't on here. And this match, the action in it, it's not like this was like great wrestling top to bottom, but by the end, despite the fact that she sucks so much, in my opinion, but despite the fact that maybe this isn't my vision for this division, look at that rhyme I just laid out there, vision for the division. But despite that, the crowd, this worked. Like it ended up for this one night. It worked for the crowd. Saraya getting the title. The fans got behind her, and it worked. So I'm not going to be too critical. And the other three I thought were awesome in the match. Like great hard-hitting wrestling between them. Shida, obviously great. Britt, I thought, had a renewed intensity that she doesn't have. I mean, she's really struggled the last month or two in the ring. I thought she looked a lot better than usual here. And Tony is becoming like my favorite person in this company, I think, with this character. I think she's doing a phenomenal job. And in the end, Saraya's family interfered at different points too, but in the end, she ended up hitting she grabbed the Outcast spray paint, sprayed Storm with it, hit the nightcap for the win. It was like a 9-minute match, so not a lot of time. But then, like you said earlier, this match, unlike the 6-man match, this accomplished something and gave us somewhere to go going forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I would give this probably like a quarter more than the 6-man we were talking about before. Same notes, like, Shida looked fantastic. I really thought she was going to pull it away.
Yeah.
Like my biggest complaint with the match is probably the finish. The whole finish of like, I have someone locked in a submission and then someone hits their finisher next to me, but I'm just going to stay here is like so dumb.
Yeah, Britt looked like an idiot.
To me, Britt has to have the least ring awareness out of any wrestler now. Was this Tony's first time using this new entrance?
I think so. I don't think she's wrestled on it. Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. Like great entrance. Yeah.
Love the music. Love the Titantron, all that. Dude, this whole Knight family thing, this was like, okay, this is like going to be fucking a leap and a half. But it's like if Triple H walked out on the stage at like Crown Jewel with like like the crown prince or whatever with like Mohammed bin Salman. I'm just like, oh, thank God the fucking Knight family finally gets their moment in the sun. Like the amount of felonies and awful shit perpetrated on a single stage by these people. And when I heard "We Will Rock You," I was in the other room when this started, and I was like, God damn it, that's Saraya, isn't it? And I walked out, and it was genuinely disgusting to me. Like I won't beat around the bush on this. The Knight family is very well known for being a very not good group of people. Like her mom has abuse allegations, her father, her brothers. Like it's something where like the well is so poisoned. And I'm not going to, lump in Saraya with them necessarily. Like I think her story has been very different. I won't bring it Ronnie Radke, whatever.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Would you have rather this or him playing her out?
Dude, didn't his music play at the end anyway or something? I don't know.
I think they played it. Well, that's the normal theme is his song there. Yeah. But what if he had came out? That was my dream for this show. I really wanted him to come out because I knew that the crowd would hate him and boo him, and I think he's crazy enough that he would turn it into a shoot on the fans and just cut an insane promo, and Saraya's like, no, please, like don't do it here. I thought it would be so funny if that happened, but instead we got this with more criminals that you can have besides just him.
Yeah, we should get like Saraya and Ronnie Radke. Let's bring in Carmella and James Ellsworth into AEW and just fucking ruin it all. God, yeah, like this whole thing. We have Tony and Saraya coming out of this. Cool. Britt just feels like not a star to me anymore. And it feels like they're really pushing her and trying to keep her one. But I think that Jamie really surpassed her, when she was champion. And
totally agree.
Just looking at this lineage, like, whatever happens with Saraya, I just hope the title is sort of, writes its course, much like the TNT and stuff like that.
Yeah.
AEW, they get into these, and I would say this is symptomatic of a lot of wrestling companies, it's like you look at the first 5 reigns. It's Riho, Nyla, Shida, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. The shortest reign out of all those is 100 days, and after that it's 130. Once you go after that, right, Tony wins the title, then Jamie wins it. Jamie's champion for 190 days. And has the same number of defenses as Tony does in her next ring over 2 months. And it's just like, fuck, man. Like, there needs to be some sort of stability or consistency to the division. And I do not think Saraya is the person that can bring it.
No, not at all.
And the post-show media scrum, she did talk about how she's at 100% now, that she feels fully capable. So this is definitely a sink or swim moment. And, AEW is very much the place where more than WWE, it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
Like, because you have people on this show who can work their asses off so much and aren't necessarily limited by the content nor the writers like they are in WWE or handcuffed by it. To where if Saraya just doesn't perform, like, because even, say what you will about Britt, but Britt can have great matches at times. Like her and Thunder was great. All of the women's champions thus far have been great in-ring workers. And I think this is the first time we're looking at, a very high-profile champion in AEW outside of Jade Cargill, who doesn't necessarily match this in-ring quality. But Saraya has none of the superstar power, nor the allure, nor the character, nor the personality that Jade Cargill was at least able to carry her title reign with. And even then it's like, fuck, where was Jade Cargill on this? Where was Chris Statlander, Athena, Willow, so many other deserving people, and this was the worst outcome. So yeah,
why couldn't they have just done a battle royal for the women? Like, get good publicity, have everybody go on there, you give everybody your entrance, and it makes them feel like on par with the men.
2-hour pre-show.
Yeah, with 2 matches and with like 15-minute total wrestling time.
Yeah.
And you could have easily have done both of the battle royals. Like, they don't have to be super long. Just say, hey, the winner will get a number 1 contendership for Statlander or whatever. You could say on there. Just do anything. Just put them on there. Let them have their moment. like you said, I would have loved to have seen Hayter get a surprise. Like, she would have gotten a huge pop.
Yep.
And if she had come out after this or before it, like maybe she could have, done something to help Britt somehow. Or like I said, just walk her out. Just have her come there and say, hey, she never lost the title. She is a champion even without a belt. Like that would have been so easy to do. For like, you only need a minute or two. And that's one of the things I was very disappointed by on the show. And again, it's no secret morale is low right now in the locker room. And they're not going to get another chance like this to get this morale up like this, to have people live their dreams like this. Maybe next year, but I don't think that they're going to be able to do 80,000 next year when they come back based on the build up and the hype for it.
I think they're going to have to really make it an actual fucking show next time. Not just,
exactly.
Hey, we're in the UK.
And that's the thing. Like that's a good point there. We'll talk about it in the end. I'm gutted that Shida lost the title so fast. What was even the point of her winning the title? Like if this is what was going to be the end result of it. The end result of this was Saraya gets her one place in the world that she'll get a big pop on, and to set up Mercedes. I think that is probably where they will. That's the end game of this title reign. I think is to bring in Mercedes and face her with the history that they have, the story with the neck that she was a part of, and once Mercedes gets healthy, I think that's going to be a collision course for these two, and I'm sure everyone's going to hope that leads to new things, but. To me, the thing with the women is, he doesn't care about them. Like you could do a lot of great things. Like you said, you named a lot of really great talents that in the women's division. It's not them that's the issue. It's the people booking this. 8:43. Like this was the shortest match on the show by far.
Yeah, I looked at my friends right before it started. I said $50 says they don't even get 10 minutes.
But they didn't.
They didn't. Every other person got at least over 10 minutes, and it's that glaring shit, right? And like this may be a hot take, but AEW has I think a ridiculously higher amount of in-ring talent for their women than WWE does. Mm-hmm. And yet, they're booked way differently, which isn't to say they don't have their issues, but yeah, I am happy Shida did get her title win in front of people at 200.
Yeah.
I'm happy she got a walk-in as champion in front of 80,000 people, but I still completely agree that it's just one of those slaps in the face. And I guess the only other thing I really have to say about the match is this did have one of the best spots of the night with the curb stomp on Tony while she was in Saraya's submission.
Yeah, the Scorpion crosslock, yeah.
I thought that was super fucking cool. But yeah.
I thought the match was fine. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I gave this 3 stars.
Dude, okay, when Tony handed Saraya's mom Britt Baker, and it's one of those spots, where the person's supposed to pretend to hold them, and her mom locked in a full fucking tight as hell on Britt Baker.
She's like, I've been waiting for this.
He literally put her in a real ass submission, dude. I was cracking up. I was like, oh my god, of course. But yeah, I digress.
Awesome. But yeah, like I said, you got the pop, you got the setup for the match. Hated for Shida. That's something we might look at in a future episode, like WWE versus AEW, because I think that's an interesting debate. But I definitely don't think it's any debate. Like, they did more for Rhea and Raquel, on this weekend show than they did for this match before people, by far. So yeah, like I said, I didn't hate it, but it's the principle of it that I don't like. Is that now Saraya's champion, Shida got this crappy title reign. She's probably gonna go to the bench again. And I actually think it would have made more sense, actually. Like you said, I'm happy that she got the title in front of the people. And hey, her win, she got a huge pop for when she beat Tony. That was a great finish. But I actually think for this story that they told with Saraya screwing Tony at the end, it would have been better if Tony was the champion. And she stole the belt from her on there. But I love Tony. I hope that she becomes the champion right now soon, because I just think her character work is awesome. And Shida did a lot of great work. We have to praise her. She was all over the interview scene. She did 2 or 3 English interviews leading into the show. And that's what you should do. That's what everybody on this show Kenny Omega should have been all over the scene. Like one of your top stars in your history. This show should have been a celebration of your history of the company. Adam Cole, where were these interviews that were all over the place plugging this? Ishida was like one of the top people overall. But anyway, now we go to the part that I both loved and hated the most on the show, because we recapped the turn on AR Fox with Swerve and making it a Christian and Swerve team. I hated this so much. Like I can't get over how much I hated how stupid it made the babyfaces look on top of it. First of all, it was crazy to have him kick him out of the group so fast. Secondly, this man came out with a fantastic angle they did at Nick Wayne's house, which I thought was like one of the best angles they've done in forever. They looked menacing. They were awesome. It was great. He comes out with your bloody wife beater that he has on, with Nick Wayne's blood on it, throws it at his mom's face, and then 5 minutes later, we're friends again. What?
It's so funny because like Darby's just, I forgive you, AR Fox.
Yeah. What?
Why are you gonna forgive him? But it's it's one of those things again where it's like an audible. All you had to do was have Darby and Sting take out Fox, and then force Swerve to come up with a new partner. That's all you had to do.
Or even have Nick hit him with a glass, because that's how the scene ended. Smash something glass over his head and take his ass out as revenge for what they did to him. And like you said, that would have been so easy. Fox is out of the match. We're scrambling. We need to find somebody else. And Christian has logical motivation to try to hurt Darby because he's going to face Luchasaurus. They already set that up for All Out. So they could have gotten to this so much better and set up a great storyline in the future. Like, there was so much juice left with Fox and Swerve as a team. I can't believe they did it, and like made your baby faces look terrible, made Fox look like a goof, Swerve look stupid. It's like there was no positives to that whole segment. I hated it so much. But I will say this. Despite all of my negative feelings on here, and the fact that Sting came out to Metallica, he came out to his old WCW theme, Seek and Destroy. I mean, I love this match. I thought it was the best match on the show for me personally. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I thought this was so fun. And with less people, it was like there were less of the issues I had with the Stampede match was in this match, and all of the good stuff was also in this match. We had Sting with a cricket bat in this match. How can I not love this? Like, no, they spoke to me with this match, and there's no way I could have hated it no matter what happened. We saw the coffin drop in the coffin match as we predicted on the last show as well. Sting hit the Scorpion Death Drop. Swerve was freaking awesome in this match. Darby was as awesome as he always is in these crazy ass matches. But to me, it will always be Sting in my heart, and I could never not love this. I'm sorry if everyone disagrees, but Sting is my guy. I loved this match. It was so fun. I just wish that it had been Fox instead of Christian, or they could have at least got here without making me hate this whole story. But for a match itself, like all of his matches, all of the Sting and Darby matches, they worked, and I loved it.
This is my favorite Sting match probably since I have like Cage Match pulled up right now, so I'm gonna try to find this. But
how about that bump where Darby, the first time he tried to do the coffin drop, but he only got the coffin?
Dude, okay, that's one of my favorite bumps, like in coffin matches.
Yeah, great.
I saw Ciclope and Matt Justice do that spot like 5 times in a single match in Vegas once, and so I was so happy. I'm not a big fan of Darby Allin outside of the ring for numerous reasons, but his whole like I'm gonna bring my back spots never get old to me.
Oh, and what about the stuff when his hands were like Christian taped his hands behind the back, and he still was able to wrestle with that. Yep. That was like so fucking awesome.
Did you see? God, this is so long ago, but Darby and Ethan Page's feud from Evolve.
Yeah, I saw the whole thing.
Anytime Darby gets his hands put behind his back, I automatically go back to like the handcuffs and the body bag, and it's funny because everyone's like, oh my God. I'm like, I think Darby wrestles better with his hands behind his fucking back. So at this point, the guy knows how to do it. But yeah, like maybe my favorite Sting match in just a very long time since like, God, I don't know. The most recent ones haven't done as much for me, but like I'm looking at OG Forbidden Door with Shingo right now. But that was super fun. And that's not to say I haven't liked him. They just haven't had like the same big allure to me recently. Yeah. I loved the spot at the end where, you know, he prevents the coffin from closing with the bat. And I thought it was funny at the end because Swerve's hair was sticking out the coffin. And people at my house were like, why doesn't that count? And they were freaking out.
Ooh, that's a technicality. That he needs to claim that and say, I was not fully in that coffin.
Exactly. My hair was sticking out. And then the other thing was Nick Wayne's spot where like he comes out and then he gets picked up by Luchasaurus. And Excalibur goes, because then Luchasaurus carries him to the back. And Excalibur goes, who knows what Luchasaurus has planned for little Nick Wayne backstage? Like what horrors he has planned. And one of my friends just goes, what do they do to each other backstage? Like just completely confused because it's just like this very like, I don't know. I thought that was a super funny and random call, but yeah, I would give this one like a solid 3.5 as well. Definitely like, I don't know. I love Swerve. I wish Christian got put in the coffin again instead of Swerve, just because I think it would be so funny for Christian to get put in coffins twice in 1 year.
In 1 year, and get buried again.
Yeah. More than anything, I guess I don't know what's next for Swerve after this. Like, he came into this with Fox with like the best position he's had so far.
Yeah.
And now he just lost this major feud and he's sort of just alone again.
That was another thing I hated about that angle, because that's exactly what I thought. I told somebody this, that Swerve is never getting pushed in this company, no matter how much I wish it would happen, because it's like, you've killed him now, like, in this group. Like, you've killed everything. He lost. He got put in the coffin. He lost his, like, the thing that heated him up most. And now, like you said, what could possibly be next? I think they've really hurt him.
The only thing I'd be like really excited for, we'll see what they do, but a feud with Fox.
Yeah, like let him do it. We know what they could do in the Lucha Underground days.
What was that called? Like the War is Hell or the Hell of War?
Yeah, something like that. But it was the best match in Lucha Underground history that they had. And a fantastic death match with an amazing ending on top of it. One of the best parts of the entire show. If they could just run that back in AEW, I'm 1,000,000% for that. I hope that they do something, because Swerve is so good. If we were to rank, like, if we were to, like, do scouting on the wrestlers and rate everybody with attributes, like, in ring. This is a show I wanted to do, by the way, in the future. Ranking, like, promo, character, look, wrestling. He would be, like, elite tier, like, top tier, top 5, top 10 guy in the whole company. And Darby and Sting are just so fun, like going in there. Christian, a great heel, even at his advanced age. I think he was perfect for what he wanted to do. I do think the match would have been better if it was Fox instead of him still. But for what we got, it was good. Like you said, I do agree. He should have been the one in the coffin by the end. But I still love this. This was a 4-star match for me.
Sick.
Yeah, really loved that. And then the next match we had, forget the match, Fozzy. What did you think about this performance here, as Jericho gets to live one of his more of his dreams that he gets to have here, performing in Wembley Stadium?
When he started the Freddie Mercury thing, I'm going to be completely honest here, Dylan. You might have to carry this one, because right when Chris Jericho – so when Darby and Sting's match started, my friend was like, hey, just so you know, we got to go to lunch after this. I was like, okay. So I was pretty much just on my own after that match. So Chris Jericho went, beat it up. And then I went to get a burger. So I did not watch this match. Will Ospreay is not someone that does a lot for me. I think I maybe fall into the minority on that. And Chris Jericho, this feud, I was just so uninterested. I had already seen one Don Callis thing in the night. Yeah. I heard great things about the match. I would love to hear all about it. But yeah, I was out getting a burger for this, and I came back during the House of Black's entrance. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I can't blame you for not wanting to listen to Jericho sing here.
Yeah, how was it? Did he?
It was as good as you would expect his singing to be if you see them on Twitter. I hate this whole feud. It was so stupid how they've gotten here. I liked the promo on Dynamite between the two at the contract signing. I thought it was good, except for the fact that this whole storyline is so fucked up and messed up. Why? So, okay. You had Jericho try to cut a promo here on Ospreay, and Ospreay cut basically a babyface promo on Dynamite where he was talking about how he's doing it to support his stepson. Like, the only reason he's doing this match is to get a big match on a big show to pay for college for his stepson that he's took on in his life. In this match, you start off with Jericho singing the song, the whole crowd's going crazy, babyface moment. And then in the match, Ospreay comes out. A fantastic entrance, too, with the fireworks. It looked great. He comes out complete babyface with Don Callis. None of this is computing. Like, and the match, Jericho, after singing the song that everyone loves so much, one of the first things he does is flip off the fans and work as a heel. The psychology of this was so bad and messed up. I can't believe. I'm sure that they don't even care, ultimately, like, based on a lot of what they did. But everything was so messed up in the babyface heel spot in this match. But as a match, I'm like you. Ospreay's not my favorite guy in the world. I was down. I've always been down in his wrestling compared to most people. I thought in the G1 this year, he really had a standout performance. I got to give him his props. He was one of the glue guys in the tournament this year in Japan. If any of you guys listening have seen his work, I thought he did a fantastic job, especially against Naito, where Naito, well, he did knock him out in the first place, so it's kind of his own fault. But he did do a fantastic job of, like, saving that match with basically somebody who couldn't do anything because he was unconscious. And he made it work, as ridiculous as it was to see him lose this unconscious man. He was able to save the match. I was really impressed on a pure wrestling level. But this match here, he did a lot of good stuff. You had a lot of big spots. You know, you had the big shooting star press going on there. They did a spot where he tried to do a springboard into a code breaker, but they kind of messed it up a little bit. It looked more like a backstabber a little bit. Jericho tried to come off and do the Os cutter here in the match, and it was bad, pretty much. But I did think that Ospreay did a formidable job carrying him to the best he could do here. And then they just had this match was so Jericho could, quote unquote, prove that he could work a Will Ospreay match in 2023. And he didn't keep up with him, in my opinion. But there was enough good in this match that I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. But you have to turn your brain off away from the storyline or the heel babyface dynamic because it was all muddled. It all didn't make any sense. And they just did a terrible job. Not any of the two wrestlers, but how they set this match up. It really feels like this is another thing. There were rumors a couple weeks ago that the card got ripped up and this match was thrown on there. And that definitely came across that way with the build-up and how they worked the match. And Ospreay did get a great babyface reaction from the crowd, which I think everybody thought he would, coming in front of his hometown audience. Why wouldn't he? It doesn't make any sense why they did this. Why would you pair him with Don Callis? If this was just Jericho and Ospreay, I think this match would have worked a lot better from a psychological standpoint. To put Ospreay with Callis takes away from all of that and away from the promo that they cut, which I thought was spirited. I thought Jericho did some of his best work. I haven't been a big fan of Jericho at all in the last year or two, or really the whole company's existence, to be honest with you. But you remember his last match against Adam Cole, one of the worst matches of the year. Nobody liked it. This was definitely a lot better than that, I would say. And it was a good match. I give it like a 3, maybe 3.5 stars. And it got an 8.04 rating. So they're even a little higher on me. So it kind of depends on what you think about Jericho and Ospreay, but that's about where I would have it.
Yeah. Would you say I should go back and watch this one?
Watch the entrances, and from there, if you've got a good vibe from the entrances, you might want to check it out. If you've got a bad vibe from the entrances, I think you'll live if you skip it, but it's not like you'll hate yourself if you watch it either. I don't think.
Just I'm picturing now like Ospreay walking out, babyface pop, Callis is behind him. Then they send out Hogan, then Punk.
Hogan.
It's got Muhammad bin Salman behind him, just the Crown Prince. Every single just
yeah, like, who the hell was that?
Yeah. Conor McGregor. He's just walking out, and everyone's like, "Woo!" Okay, but good to know. I will check out his entrance.
Yeah, the fireworks display was awesome that he had there. So then we cut, like you said, you got your burger. Where did you get this burger from?
Oh, just Sonic down the street, unfortunately, because it was close.
There's nothing wrong with that. I can approve of Sonic. They've got good drinks and shakes and stuff like that.
That's true.
As well. So
I shouldn't shoot on Sonic. They have a great rewards program.
They're not my number one choice, but I could get down with Sonic. Nanny loves it. That's one of her favorite places to eat, but we haven't gone there in a while. Maybe we will soon. But you got back. They announced the attendance. Nigel's like, hey, we've got the attendance. 81,035 people here, which is said to be totally legit as well. So good on AEW for that. With all their problems we have, they did a good job there. Going into the House of Black and the Acclaimed Billy Gunn, to me, this might have been the best build-up to a match on this show, actually. And I thought it was such a layup to have them win. And when they did it, the crowd just went insane. Max Caster's rap was talking about like the royal family, how everyone's a disgrace in the family, Prince whatever, Prince Charles or whoever the fuck it is. There, sorry to our England listeners, but
Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew, yes. I apologize, Prince Charles, for that. Prince Andrew is a disgrace, according to Max Caster. Shot on Megan. He said House of Black looked like the kids from Harry Potter on there, which is ridiculous. I don't know how they're alike at all, but sure. I mean, that's like what I think about when I see Brody King is like, you look just like Harry Potter. No. But yeah, I mean, this was like the easiest layup on the show. In the end, the badass Billy Gunn got the win with the Fameasser. Into the mic drop, actually, McCaster got the pin. It wasn't any kind of good match. But you can't deny this accomplished exactly what it wanted to and what it needed to here. And I thought it was like perfect for what it is.
Yes. I am a huge, huge fan of the Acclaimed. Like, to me, they never should have lost the tag titles. They could have held them till Wembley and it would have worked for me. They are so hot and it feels like they're just not as hot anymore, which sucks. But this was fun. Like, the most AEW shit ever, though, is being like, what's your stipulation? And we're like, no holds barred after a coffin match, a stadium stampede match.
That was another issue I had with this whole show, is that, like, every match was gimmick on gimmick on gimmick on gimmick.
And that's just AEW now, really. Like, they are, seemingly incapable of just doing a show without numerous stipulations. And the thing is, like, okay, look. You can do a show where it's like 2 out of 3 falls, something where it's like pure rules, hardcore. But the problem with AEW is that all of their stipulations pretty much just bleed into the same exact match stip, which is hardcore wrestling. I fucking love hardcore wrestling, but it like you were saying with GCW, right? And how Glass has, what's the term? It's like, diminishing returns. And with AEW, there are people who can absolutely do hardcore matches, and there are people where it just isn't as great. And I think in those moments, it really suffers. But, I'm not going to claim to remember a lot from this match. For me, the match was a lot more about getting to see the Acclaimed in Wembley. The House of Black entrance and the nod to Bray was very sweet. I honestly thought this was one of Caster's weakest raps, but also I feel like he's had to make 20 raps about House of Black at this point. So I don't know how much further he could go. Like, the pinnacle is still him saying Malachi does blackface, which is pretty true.
That was hilarious. And set up, I remember that we had the guy in the blackface mask in the band at the main event.
Yes, and then I think he called Buddy like getting cucked by Dom or so, just all those obscene things he usually says, right? And this one felt so tame and just, obviously catered to the local audience. But I'm really happy the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn have the titles. I think that they're going to be a really fun trio. Like House of Black is badass, but they just didn't. There's no one that's like, they're so cool that it kind of hurts them in the way of like, I don't know. I think that Malachi really needs to get a world title shot. It's been years. And I can't even think of a time where he's had a singles program since Cody.
Yeah.
Like, because Andrade was what? That was like all members.
You had Miro before he left.
Yep. And just like, So I'm excited to see what the House of Black does. And then this puts the Acclaimed back in a position where, they can just have fun. And I'm all for a final Billy Gunn run. I think that this trio's title reign will hopefully get some good weight to it with, if they lose, Billy will retire. That's always a pretty fun step. And also, I will say I enjoy the concept of being able to add a stipulation. I did like that open house thing.
Yeah, that was good. I just didn't like when they had the gyro ball effect on the crowd, where they it turned the crowd into like blinking lights or whatever.
Oh,
that had to go. But I like that they kind of stopped that. I think they realized how stupid that was. But the idea of the house rules, like you said, picking a stip, I think that's a great idea. They never really used it to their full potential though.
No, it was always like no holds barred. There's always the fucking stip.
Yeah,
it's like the old WWE Cyber Sunday when it's like you get a vote on the match and the match stips. It's like no DQ, no holds barred, or street fight.
Count anywhere. Yeah,
it's just like the fuck.
Yeah, it's all the same shit. Yeah, but I think that they could have done some really cool stuff with this though if they wanted to. Like drop somebody in a swimming pool match or something like that. I like because the ones we saw was like, no witches at ringside was one of them, and the other was like, we don't have any, we have no picks, and now this time it's it's no DQ. So
yeah, that was one of the most frustrating ones is we don't pick. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's totally so lazy.
Yes.
Well, you could use that submission only, or you must win with with a certain move, or like the end, like the blackout kick is banned, like it's something like that. I don't know, but we'll see where they go. I think, much like I said earlier about Jack Perry a little bit, there's a skeleton of a great group here that I don't think they fully capitalized on yet, and all great wrestlers though. Like, I love watching them wrestle. All three of them, I think, are really strong. So we'll have to see what happens there. But, I mean, this is, like I said, this was the match I was most confident about predicting. Was, like, you can't pass up the ability to give up this pop. And look how happy Mercedes was with this scissoring thing at the end. Like, she loved that when they cut to her. Why did they cut to her this and not the women's title match?
Because she was actually smiling.
Yeah, she probably looked like, this match sucks. She was thinking, like, I don't want to watch this.
She was literally holding her nose and pretending that she smelled something bad the whole time.
Like, I don't want to watch Soraya.
Yeah.
But yeah, she loved the scissoring. And the crowd, like I said, this was the easiest layup on the show. So I was very happy. They gave him the belt. Good stuff. Like, basic, like, old school pro wrestling here to get them here for a good title. Good stuff, which is the opposite of the main event here. And I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on this match. And they go to the world title. Adam Cole versus MJF. They had already wrestled once to start the show, winning the Ring of Honor titles. It was like a 6-minute match or whatever, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But still, main event time. I have to know what you thought of this match here. And this has the highest rating on Cage Match of any match on this show, which was a stunner. Like when I saw it. But 8.67 here. And the thing is, this is over with their fans. But I will ask you about this match, this whole story that they've concocted and gotten through with these two. What do you think of all of this, Nello?
All right. I got 2 words for you. Bloodline bullshit. Oh wait, bullshit's not one word. God damn.
Suck it.
Yeah, like there was it's like they wanted to be so smart in this match and do so many callbacks, and none of it made any fucking sense. It was like after every 3 minutes, it's like they forgot what existed before. Cole hitting MJF on the stairs with a pile driver and then being like, oh, can I hit him with a chair? The Roddy playing the Jey Uso, or just the Uso role, was so dumb. Like how Roddy just shows up in London. He's like, you're my best friend. Like, none of it made sense to me. And I think like the moment where I just totally checked out on the match is they do the double pin. And then the match ends because it's a double pin. And Adam Cole gets the mic. And what does he say after the match ends because of a double pin? 5 more minutes. And because, yes, that's the callback. But you know how else you could have done that callback? Just make it Adam Cole asking to continue the match. There was literally nothing in relation to time, to stoppage, to time limit. And yet he said 5 minutes. And that to me was just the biggest like indicator of how brain dead this match was. Like in the sense of, again, it's like just because you're making callbacks doesn't necessarily mean that they're intelligent. And this is becoming really, really like catastrophic in American main event world title wrestling. Like, look at the past 3 big world titles we've discussed, right? Reigns versus Jay. I'll even say Masha versus Blake, and then MJF versus Cole. And the one thread, the one piece of connective tissue is that every single one of those matches has the most unbelievably blown out, overbooked third act imaginable. Yeah. And it sucks because there's still some good wrestling that comes in this. And, you know, at first, before it really derailed for me, I was like, okay, well, you know, they already gave us that 30-minute match that, you know, and that was about as good of a pro wrestling match as you could hope for between these two. Like, that was a really good match.
That was. So I was so surprised with that because I came in really not looking forward to it, but they had a great match.
Totally agreed. And this has finally felt like, because when Adam Cole was fighting Heyman for the title, he didn't necessarily feel like he was really that person in the company yet. And I think that Cole does feel like that top star now. But none of this answered anything for me. Like, again, like, oh, I'm going to hit you now. Oh, I'm not. And then the whole like post-match angle where they just continue to hug it out. But again, like MJF does the same exact tease at the end of this. And I'm very over it. Like with all of this inundation of just ridiculous over the top storytelling. Like to me, this was more overbooked than Stadium Stampede, and that has 10 people in it.
Yeah.
And technically 11 with Penta Oscuro. They still had a 6-man. But yeah, like it's just those glaring. And you know what's fucked up is when these glaring creative decisions completely like overshadow the actual wrestling in the match.
Yeah.
Because I can't like what I remember from the match is Cole absolutely destroying MJF. The spots that stick out for me, him hitting the heat seeker, that ridiculous fucking neckbreaker Ushigoroshi on the stairs.
Yeah.
Like all of those spots were incredible. And you know what it reminded me of? Cole versus Briscoe from Final Battle like a decade ago. When they were at the old ECW arena, 2500, what is it called? I can't remember.
Hammerstein?
Not Hammerstein, the other one. 2500 arena. 2300. Yeah, the 2300 arena. Sorry. And yeah, like this had that Adam Cole ferocity that I've been missing. And I thought that they were really, really doing this double turn super well. Mm-hmm. And then they just decided to all stick their feet out and pull out their Cash Wheeler revolvers and shoot themselves in the foot. Yeah, I could keep rambling about it, but what'd you think?
To be fair, Cash never shot anyone. To be fair, I just want to make that very clear.
No, yeah. Sorry.
Just for all legal purposes, we have to clarify that. But This storyline was so irritating to me. And I know that it's so over with their fan base. Like the people in the arena universally love everything they're doing. And I thought the promo MJF cut on Dynamite, the go home show, was fantastic. Yeah, I like the story about Adam Cole being one of his dream opponents, along with Cody Rhodes. So much real emotion you got into it. The problem is it was preceded by them doing a Crocodile Dundee skit, talking about kangaroo kicks. In the past, going to the Chinese restaurant and saying, "Owie, it's too spicy." It's like, what is this? Like, why do people like this? And then the promos they cut in the ring have all been really strong, I thought. But the backstage segments are so cheap. It makes the company look bad that this is your world title program, in my opinion. But then ultimately the fans love it so much when they go out and they buy into this stuff that really all of my complaints don't matter in the grand scheme of things to their fan base, clearly. But this is still my opinion that I'm laying out here. And I was ready – if you had liked this, I was ready to fight you over it because I hated this match. I thought it was one of the worst main events of the year, equally as offensive as the Roman and Jay match at SummerSlam, maybe even more so, actually, because whatever you want to say, like you said, community theater acting for sure with the bloodline and all of that stuff there. Roderick Strong is like watching Tommy Wiseau. Like he is the Tommy Wiseau of wrestling, right? This is the room in wrestling form. I feel like we're watching before our eyes.
He went from pinning Chris Jericho to like just wearing a neck brace and being a dummy for fucking 3 months. And I don't know if he's actually injured or what, but
they're ruining him. This is one of my favorite wrestlers. Like they're ruining him in front of our eyes. And everybody tried to defend this, saying, "Oh, it'll be revealed he was in on it all along." How can he be in on it all along? They reconciled, like right in the main event of the biggest show.
Yep.
Like it doesn't matter. He looks like an idiot every week, and this is one of your best wrestlers. Like, why are they doing this to him? What did he do to deserve this? That is offensive to me. How Roderick has been used. Remember, like last week, he kicked a tire and like hurt his leg on it. It was so stupid. I thought this would be out of place on a Nickelodeon show. You know, like
he has like the power ranking right now of Mike Bennett when he was getting cuckolded on WWE television.
It was Maria. Yeah, that's about where he's at.
Yeah, and I don't know, like. When you look at this type of show, right, MJF and Adam Cole wrestled twice, and to me, absolutely jack shit has changed in this feud, in this relationship. It did not add any new ripples, except now they actually have tag belts, but that are wildly inconsequential at this point. And, you know, this needed to get a new ripple. But again, it's crazy that this was in front of 80,000 people. Exactly. They wrestled twice, and both times they absolutely had the audience in the palm of their hand, which can't be denied. But to me, this story has nothing in addition to it now. And if these were the AEW tag titles, I would say yes, that's a huge ripple now, right? But the ROH tag titles, this is not something I put any weight or investment into until they.
Look at how we started the show. You were questioning if they'd even show up on Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
as you should. As totally reasonable of you to question. And the execution, this melodramatic stuff doesn't fit when ultimately the guy we've known for these years, MJF, has been known to be the ultimate devil, as he calls himself in this company, talking about how Liv Morgan blew him in a car not that long ago, and he crashed a car and killed somebody and all this other crazy crap he talked about. He's done every scumbag thing. He's brought up Bryan Danielson's kids. Like, he's done everything scumbag. But now we're to believe in a matter of 2 months, like now he's this changed man because of Adam Cole. It's like this is a storyline that would work in a year-long struggle, like to me. Like they went for bitter enemies on top of it. Remember that first promo they had where he was talking about Cole called him out for being on steroids on there. And MJF was like, no, you're too skinny, like, you know, and all this other stuff that they were talking about, going after his wife and all that other crap that he always does. We went from that in a matter of like 2 or 3 weeks to now we're playing video games and going to the Chinese restaurant. This story doesn't work with the time they've put into it. Like, for a character like MJF, I'm all for a redemption story. And some would say he should have been a babyface last year, which I agree with, actually. I think they've done a good job of his character not being like, he's still MJF, but now he's like much more of a babyface leaning version without it being like, oh, his character has totally changed. Now he's this honorable character. He's saying he's a scumbag. But the story beats of these two's friendship hasn't lasted long enough, in my opinion, to warrant all of this. And unfortunately for me, the crowd disagrees with that because, like you said, they're completely over. Like, the hottest thing they have in the company. I don't know what kind of, you know, business metrics there are, whatever merch they're selling with the Better Than You Baby t-shirts. I don't know. But like you said, this is my ultimate point on all of this. You totally hit the nail on the head. I would be okay with all of these criticisms that I have about this storyline if it was the opening match. This is for the world title in your biggest show ever by far. 80,000 people. The biggest show in wrestling history. They hyped it up. And like you said, nothing happened. Like, there was no step forward, no meaningful change. And on top of it, in this match, for all of this talk, MJF is now, like you said, they built up to the double turn kind of, where Cole is going to be the one to turn on MJF. I think they've kind of set that up. In the match, they play that, and I want to shout out a specific user on Cage Match here who wrote a great review of this match. User Aaron Carr here, 3.0 out of 10, where he was talking about how he played up hitting cool moves to pop the fans, had an awfully hokey crisis of conscience about Tombstone and Cole on the table. That was so stupid when he did that. And he'd happily accept the match restart, which was like to show his growth from the 30-minute draw that they had. But then he also happily initiated multiple ref bumps, tried to get Cole DQ'd with an Eddie tribute spot, nearly KO'd him with the ring, and even pinned Cole off of a cheap roll-up. So that's a great point, too. There's no even consistency with his character, I would say, or Cole, or Roddy, for that matter. So there's so many problems that we can go into, but I hated this match. I gave it 0. Like, I thought it was a terrible match, and I hated the way it made me feel after watching it. Because, like you said, with the bloodline, with the grand scheme of things, is this where wrestling's going? And it's a scary thought.
It sucks if so. Again, it's so many ideas, but the issue is that, you know, when you have a question, you should be able to answer it to resolve conflict, right? And there are so many questions about this match because of the ideas inherently being in conflict with each other, like you just discussed. Like, is this a match about two chicken shits trying to out chicken shit each other? Is this a match about Cole going evil and MJF solidifying himself as a babyface? Is this match about Roddy and Cole's past and Roddy trying to push Cole to become the bastard that he really is? And the answer is all of them, but the issue is that they made no considerations to have them all work together. Because maybe there is a way to make it work. Like, honestly, that Eddie chair spot, out of place, but I liked it still. I was like, you know what? This is a sequence completely on its own. I thought it was a funny thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. If it had been done at any other time than when they did it, was so stupid because you were trying to build up this restart deal and then to go right to that. Oh my God. Dude, I was thinking, like, why? This makes no sense with what you just showed us.
Did we talk about the fact that that GCW Homecoming's 12-man, 3-man tag team scramble match had the same spot as this match with someone giving the fucking ref a Panama Sunrise?
Yeah. Oh, I hate that so much. It was done so much better in that GCW match in here. They tried to portray this as like an accidental Panama Sunrise. The problem is, to do this move, you have to leap off the rope. You have to hit 2 leaps to do this. So if you were to hit 1 leap, you can easily just stop. There's no reason you can't. He even stopped. Like, he had like a split second pause where he's like, oh no, what am I about to do? And then he just did it anyway. What was that? What was that? Now, I don't understand. I do understand. It was stupid. It's not me that's not understanding. It was a stupid spot, timed very poorly. And I hated this match. I really did. Like, easily the worst match on the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would honestly put this in line with like the six man that we were discussing earlier with the Golden Elite. For separate reasons, this one was just a major letdown. It's like, if this is, and maybe this is just different, ideologies and approaches to wrestling, right? And you and I are both very, very embedded with the Japanese wrestling, and that's sort of like our thing, right? Japanese main event wrestling, for the most part is very, very different than what this new approach has become. And, I think that this has been an issue with AEW though since the beginning.
You're right about that. That's a great point, because that's something a lot of people complained about, the melodrama, and I still hate it now, but what you're about to say is totally true.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at Moxley's reign, right? Yeah. I Quit match, dog collar or whatever with Brody or something,
the
right?
Explosion match that they had.
Explosion match. Yeah. Every fucking single title match has steps for the most part, always. And one of the only times you really got these without steps, and even, I guess I should say, non-hardcore steps, was Hangman with like Bryan a little bit, but even then you have the Texas Death Match against Archer, but at least you started getting some non-hardcore steps. But yeah, like, it's just I would love for there to be world title matches where they can simply be fucking matches for a world title.
Or any match on the card to just be like that. Because the closest we got was Jericho and Ospreay, and you had Sonic to get to. You couldn't watch that then.
Yeah, I couldn't even watch it. And you still had the human melted candle out there too. You still had the Spy Kids tooth thumb. So
yes, I think that's why. Like I said, and we're about to bury him in a second, but that's why I like the opener so much, because at least we just had a normal match on the show. There, like, that was a very nice thing to see, instead of this and all of the crazy gimmicks. And I liked, and to be fair, I liked most of the gimmicks. The Stadium Stampede match worked. I loved the Coffin match. And there was a lot to like about the show. But the finish was so bad to me. Like you said, I can't believe they ended it this way with no, like they said, no movement forward in this story that they built up. And I was going to hate it no matter what, just because the match, how it was and all the reasons you pointed out. But just with no ending in sight, I was just so disappointed by that main event. But still, though, the star of this show, none of these matches, in my opinion, were match of the year level matches on the show, even the ones I liked. But the aura of it all, the atmosphere, the crowd, that was the star of this show, in my opinion, was the Wembley Stadium. Like, the experience, the crowd shots from the sky. That made it feel like a WrestleMania level show. It's something very special that I'm thankful happened. As many criticisms as I have, as many cracks as I think there are in this suit of armor that AEW's been wearing, and there's a lot of questions going forward. At the end of the day, I still like this show, and I'm glad that I watched it, and I'm glad that it happened, even though the main event left me a lot. And there was some issues with all the matches in a lot of ways, but I think that the show overall has to be considered a thumbs up in a vacuum. But in the grand scheme, I don't know. Like, I guess it remains to be seen. But I give this a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. It has 8.83 as a show on Cage Match right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to sum up my thoughts here, just because I do have to run in a second. Yeah. So I'm so sorry. But definitely a legendary show. For me, I'll probably remember it for what it was as opposed to what was in it, more so. It's a prototype for this new tradition that Kron wants to start. This is about as impressive as you can be in terms of, the surface success, right? Number of tickets sold, just the complete allure of it, the whole stadium setup, etc. Their debut in Europe. But next year, I think that, they really need to break out the Hercules plate with become a meat and potatoes guy and really give the fans what they want. Because, they had the benefit of just running in the UK for the first time. They don't have that this second time. Are you going to have all of the people traveling from out of country again in for this if it's just going to be a show like this again? Probably not. Do you have enough titles in your company now to book 2 back-to-back shows? Yes. And I think that they need to approach it as a WrestleMania thing, where it's you are getting, just hypothetically speaking, right? Let's say it's MJF versus Cole next year for the world title on All In. Give us MJF and fucking again, so random, Sammy Guevara versus Cole and Roddy, right? In like an old All Japan fucking brutal tag match to build up the next one. You don't need to fit it all, but you need to make it matter. Just to like go into the CM Punk stuff real quick. It's so frustrating. I genuinely do not know what it's like to be able to examine an AEW show afterwards. Like I think in a year now, since All Out, or since Punk got injured at Double or Nothing, right? We have not been able to experience the word of mouth and the buzz of an AEW show afterwards in a year and a half. And that's fucking so annoying because it always comes back to the same guy, the same parasite, the same poison. And for someone who, again, just took a microphone and decided to literally cut a promo in a ring about someone he is not in a feud with, someone he has no communication with apparently, just to shit talk them and other people, and then to turn around and get absolutely pissed off. It's someone who said one line on a show about a story that he leaked to House of Wrestling. 95% sure of that, because House of Wrestling is just Punk's new fucking live journal.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So it's like last year at All Out, he's upset because people are leaking things to, the press, which is a loose term, and all that. And it's just like, dude, every single thing that you are criticizing, you are perpetrating before it happens to you. Like, and at some point I have no fucking interest. Like, I would watch Collision if he wasn't on it at this point. Like, literally the fact that he is on it makes me not want to. I have no issues with Jack Perry. I don't care. I thought it was, I completely see what you're saying in terms of like, maybe illustrating that the glass later is fake. And that's a really good perspective because I didn't think of it. But I'm like, good. Honestly, dude, good. Like, people should not back down from this prick. He is a bully, and he seems to be totally incapable of like analyzing his own actions and all that shit, right? And like the fact that the story came out afterwards of him having to find his own way to a hotel was the cherry on the cake for me, because it shows that, one, again, he leaked that shit to Houseman. 2, he is so completely out of touch with society and humanity that he thinks that would elicit him sympathy, that he's unable to use Uber or get around a fucking city. Like, that's just privilege through and through. And yeah, it's God, I have nothing other than to say left than I'm tired about it, really. Like, it sucks that after the largest paid gate in pro wrestling history, it is literally like, you look at Squared Circle right now and like, goddamn, let me see how many of the top stories on this thing. Just right now. Oh boy. Like, okay, so let's say the top 10. 1, 2. Let's see. Oh wait, this is new. My apologies. This isn't. Oh no, this is hot. Okay, so 3 out of the 10 are about Punk, and then once you go underneath that, it's just all Sean Ross Sapp, PW Torch, Fightful Update, and I'm just like, dude, like, I used to go on Squared Circle because I wanted to see new things and cool highlights and what people were talking about. But like, man, I'm just done. That's it. Ricky Starks. That's just fucking do something with Ricky Starks. He's better than CM Punk. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
As much of a prick as Punk is, I think there's 2 things, I'll quickly go through this. Maybe me and Sandre will talk about it at some point in the near future. when he feels better. I know he got sick. But I will get to him, and we will get to him and his live experience, because he also had a lot of traveling problems, much like CM Punk. And I think a lot of people did. I thought the wrestling media did such a poor job with everything, like when that was going on. Just in the last couple of days, even after the show, the last few days after the show, there's been I don't understand why these people, I guess I understand on a business sense, these big names and the mainstream media, mainstream wrestling media, whatever. Why are they so obsessed with just rushing to the panel and putting out whatever they want out there? There's been so many retractions, changes of stories, contradictions, different sides, and obviously the wrestlers themselves are feeding, like you said with Houseman, but not just him, a lot of different people. Whether it's your Meltzers or Sean Ross Sapps, you've got guys, backup Hangman, whatever. Like these Punk camps and his enemies, they're feeding stuff to the media, and sometimes I even said it on Twitter. I really felt like, and it came out to be actually totally what I said, I thought that people were rushing to these media guys to basically amuse themselves in a lot of cases. And that's why you saw stuff like the Miro story, where at first it was presented as these two about to come to blows, which I wish would have happened. Miro would have been my hero. Another great rhyme that I wrote out right now. Nashville Preds fan in the house right now, Miro. But that would have been so amazing if that had happened. But then it just turns out that it was just a joking interaction. It wasn't that big of a deal. There's so much like gossip stuff falling on Tony Khan's head. You've got wrestlers like Samoa Joe made that tweet talking about, is your friendship commodified or is it real? And it can be useful both ways, but if it's commodified, it sucks. A very poignant point. Nothing against Joe at all. I thought he handled himself very well in the match as well. But just so much bad stuff from the media. Just hold off. Like, let's wait and see how this turns out. And a big part of the reason why I think it's that way is at the hands and feet of Tony Khan himself. This stuff should have been nipped in the bud immediately. He had to be furious that his biggest accomplishment ever, 80,000 people, you've beaten WrestleMania, something maybe a lot of people doubted you'd ever be able to do, even when you announced the show. Besides me, I believed in them. I thought that they would do it, but a lot of people thought that they wouldn't. The first thing he says is, we have an investigation. The same stuff we saw last year after All Out. The investigation about the brawl. Where did that investigation go? We don't know. He never said why. And that's the problem. Why aren't these things being corrected to the public immediately? If you ask him about Fulham, which he was also tweeting about, or the Jaguars, then he has no problem addressing a contract situation or an issue on the team. He will address it to the media. Why doesn't he do that for the wrestling media and solve all of this right away? Just say,
My only thought would be the employment status of pro wrestlers is different than that of football players in both respects. I'll say football players, right? So that would be my only thing, is since they are independent contractors, if there is more like different legality involved, I guess, because and again, I say this with absolutely no understanding, but if they are independent contractors, then maybe it has to be like that internal or third party investigation into actually what happened. I have no fucking clue, but that would be the only reason why I could see it. And then I don't know, it's hard with pro wrestling as well. And I completely agree with you in terms of absolute transparency, but it's like with football, right? Or like basketball. What's oh my god, who's the guy who always fucking brandishes the gun on like Instagram and keeps getting in trouble?
You're talking about John Morant at Memphis.
Yes. Okay.
I have a Memphis Grizzlies jersey I'm wearing right now.
When he does that, it's like he gets suspended and we know, okay, he's not fucking playing, right? With something like Punk or these situations, because there's like actual planned out storyline.
Yeah.
I don't know if that factors into it. Like, hey, we had all this. Yeah, we need to figure out what the fuck is going to happen to this now, because it's like, we could say CM Punk is suspended. I don't know. I feel like I'm just making excuses, but again,
why can't, well, even if they're independent contractors, why can't he just say, for the benefit of your paying fans, that a lot of which maybe have already bought tickets to All Out, maybe going to Chicago, why can't you give them the chance from a morality and a legality standpoint, saying, hey, we are suspending these two immediately. Like, we are going to do an investigation and we'll take it from there. And then after the investigation is in, say, hey, we have discovered that Jack Perry started it and his ass is fired. Or they're going to say, hey, CM Punk caused more trouble and we're sending his ass home for another year. Or just something like that. Just that would solve. And I'm not even saying it for the fans' perspective, really. I'm saying it from their perspective. Because if you do that, if you answer these questions, just answer them, that takes away the power that these quote-unquote dirt sheets have over you, the media has over you. You address it and get ahead of everyone else. You don't have people leaking stuff to Nick Hausman or SRS or Meltzer or Alvarez or anybody. And it seems like they're starting to feud on top of it, Alvarez and Sapp. We're causing all this drama, which is, hey, good for them. I'm not hating on any of these media guys because all of this drama is good for their business at the end of the day. They don't really have any legality issues with that, but it's the wrestlers doing this. And if you were just open and honest, I don't know why he's so obsessed with being secretive about stuff that would help him and AEW, because if we got that and that was all handled by All Out, it would be handled. We know what happened, and now we can move on and move forward. And I think that's what the next step needs to be for Tony Khan and the entire team at AEW. That's my opinion. Maybe you're right about the legalities of it for the independent contractor status, but I can't imagine that interfering with him announcing, hey, he will not be on the show because he's suspended.
Yeah, and for me, there needs to be something on tonight's show that definitively paints the direction and trajectory. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you too, but
you're good.
Well, what did they do at All Out last year?
I'm pretty sure Khan's response was just announcing that the titles have been stripped and nothing else. Nothing else.
And that was BS. Like that totally hurt them.
Because again, you have to factor in as well. Sorry to interrupt, but not all viewers know this shit, right?
Absolutely.
So for the people who just go in and they've watched All Out, and then they start Dynamite on Wednesday and says these two people have been stripped of their titles, and there's no reason why. It's like, that is, if I'm a casual viewer and I'm watching something like that, that's kind of what kills my interest, because I'm like, what? It just makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, and then
if you're a Collision viewer, then you're going to be thinking, what the hell's going on with the real world title? Is he going to disappear again? How are they going to work that out? Because obviously the quote unquote real world title is a completely fictional world title that they put in there. So how are they going to make that work? So many nonsensical questions that I really believe would have been so much better if there was just better control of Punk, control of the wrestlers, leaking stuff. I don't know, man. It's just one of those things. And like you said, I'm glad we saved this till the end instead of starting off with it, because I know a lot of people probably are very interested in hearing about that, obviously. But this is an 80,000 seat show on par with WrestleMania, and that's the main thing coming out of it. It's crazy to me how we've gotten here, so to speak. But we'll see. And the thing is, we can criticize them, but at the end of the day, for a 4-year-old company doing this, you can't say they haven't been successful at the end of the day, and they're going to have to, live with these consequences, unfortunately. And maybe it'll be because of the network. Warner Brothers, I know, is heavily involved in Punk and wants him there. Maybe that's playing a role in something, but I just gave you my opinion on it. I think it would be so much better if they got in front of the reporters and the media and the Twitter, fans and Reddit and all of that. Just answer the questions, be straight up, and good or bad, we can move on from it. And I think even if it's bad, actually, for somebody like CM Punk, I think it would help him in the grand scheme of things going forward. So, that's about all we have to say about All In. Wonderful spectacle event, even though I didn't like the main event that much. And the craziness going on backstage is a whole other thing. But thank you so much for joining me once again, Nello. I'm glad we were able to talk about it, do the show, and hopefully everybody out there enjoys it. But as usual, I want to set the stage for you, set the table, whatever you want to say to the people out there, no matter what it is. Say it right now.
Oh shit! I didn't think about it. Watch Tatsuya Nakano versus Masakatsu Funaki from UWF 89. I can't remember the exact date, but damn, that's a great match.
Yeah, that's the exact opposite of the stuff, the hardcore stuff we talked about this show. But those guys are great wrestlers. If you're a fan of legit technical shoot style wrestling, they were amazing. Both of them were. And Funaki's going to have a match in a couple of days in Noah versus Josh Barnett as well. So
Yeah.
I have a ton of respect for as a person and a wrestler, Josh Barnett. That's going to be really cool. So great shout out. What a wonderful way. That's why you are my guy, Nello. Like, I can't pick somebody else when you say stuff like that there. But thank you to all the listeners out there. As we said, we really appreciate all the love we got for the GCW show. Keep listening. Subscribe to the YouTube Wrestle Update Pod on YouTube. If we do anything with Sandre, we'll do a little bonus show YouTube only for that on there. If we do something, it depends on how he's feeling. Maybe he might be like, screw it, I don't want to talk about this no more at the end of the day. But we will also do stuff for Fastlane and All Out as well. We'll see how it goes, but we'll definitely cover them in some ways, some form or fashion. And we're looking forward to it. Can't wait to see Nakamura and Seth in the main event. They built it up really well. So really cool stuff there. But like I said, thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it personally. For Nello De Angelis, I'm Dylan Fox. This has been your Wrestle Update.